The train headed for Sunset City will be departing soon.
Of course, that's not the best picture I could find, but like it.
Like, I mean, the shit's falling off the sides. It's not even like symmetrical.
Well, no, it's meant to. The beans.
You know what?
The idea is the beans kind of envelop the toast.
So it's more so like toast within a bean casing.
Well, no, because that makes it sound like there's just
I'm
one
seeing some
singular
that have
bean,
cheese on it.
one giant bean with a bit of toast embedded inside
I mean,
the
wouldn't
bean.
you like that? If it was just all one bean.
No, so here's the thing, Frank. I see the picture you've sent, and yes, it does look appetizing, but you're intellectualizing what is meant to be a depression food.
I mean, the thing is that
So?
there's so much other options in terms of depression food that you could eat.
No,
Why
but, like,
this?
Here's the thing: is like, okay, you're too in the mood for dinner to have just a bag of chips, but you're also like not enough in the mood for dinner to cook. So it's just like, okay, we'll just dump a fucking tin of beans on some toast and then call it a day.
Just make some ramen, like every other normal person.
That's way more.
So this is
that is way
No,
more.
it's
So it's
not.
a strong
No,
meal?
okay. If ramen is too much effort for you, then you don't deserve to eat that night. I'm sorry.
So ramen is okay, but here's the thing. That's
That's a 3-minute
ramen
ordeal.
is not as fulfilling. Okay, like, look, at the end of the day,
How much ramen do you need?
At the end of the day, look, I understand that British, all right, we do a lot of weird shit, and a lot of our food is ass, okay? I do understand that, but I'm gonna give a bit of pushback when it comes to beans on toast, because I do not get what is so wild about that concept.
I think. Okay, so hear me out. I think the way that you feel about beans on toast is how I feel about sweet tea. There's some people who don't like sweet tea, and that baffles me personally, because I'm like, it's the most delicious drink.
I don't
Like,
see
I have
any culture freaking out about sweet tea. Like, this is
Yeah,
not
then-
just
Are you sure?
this is not
Are you
just
positive?
to be fair,
this is not
you
just
know what? I'm gonna give you. I'll give you guys this. Like, British food is put under heavy scrutiny, especially
That is
these
fair.
days.
Yeah, that is fair.
Yeah, and it's
I
like
think-
at
I
the same
think-
time, it's not like Americans don't eat the occasional weird shit like fucking hot grits or molasses, you know, like that shit's weird, you know.
Who
Like,
eats
You find me
molasses?
an American that eats. Who eats molasses?
well, all I know is I only heard of molasses when I set foot in America. So, an interesting
That's not
thing,
food.
Used in
No, an
something.
interesting thing though is like obviously like Americans
Uh-huh.
are like, oh, beans on toast. I spent Thanksgiving at Nick's one time. Game apologist for anyone that doesn't know who Nick is. Obviously, know who Nick is though. But I once spent Thanksgiving at his, and I tried candied yams. There's apparently like a Thanksgiving tradition thing to fucking put
Yes.
marshmallows on fucking sweet potatoes. And I'm sorry, how is beans on toast more freaky than marshmallows on potatoes?
I mean,
It's
marshmallows and
because
potatoes is
it's-
also kind of weird.
It was good. It was really good. I liked it. It's like it reminded me a lot of like
That's
dipping
not okay.
dipping your McDonald's fries in the milkshake. It reminded me of that, but like
So
I've never done that.
I think the difference
Delicious.
is that like
Well, the machine's never
marshmallows on
worked.
marshmallows on potatoes. That's not a universal thing in America.
but
know what I
it is,
mean?
it's traditional enough for it to be in Spider-Man 1. There's that bit where Norman reaches for the candied yams and
Ah,
Aunt
you
May
got a point.
slaps his hand and she's like, Norman, and then he
Yeah.
ominously licks his fingers. Fantastic
Ominously.
scene. Fantastic scene.
I need to
Somebody get him to
rewatch
go
that.
wash his hands. He just licked his
Yeah.
fingers. That's kind of gross.
Yeah, don't put them back
Yeah.
in there. What a fantastic movie, though. A quintessential
Yeah.
piece of Thanksgiving cinema. Speaking of which, it was Halloween yesterday. I want to know how many people
was.
watched The Batman. I would have liked to, but I didn't have the time. But I
I
did,
did not. Yeah.
I did watch The First Omen. That was great. Yeah. The tagline for that
I'd-
film should have been, he got that dog in him.
He got. I had to watch. No. What am I talking about? No, I had to play a Halloween gig, which was fun. So the band's original idea was for them to all be Pokemon, and I was going to be Ash Ketchum. So I dressed up as Ash. You
You
Ketchum,
dressed up as
with
ass.
that.
You
I
don't,
dressed
you
up as
don't do that for
ass.
Halloween. You do that every day, Trey.
Whoa! I'm just going to start.
He
crying
switched to his other
profusely.
persona, Ass
Well, yeah,
Grab 'em.
because you're dressed like game
Ass grab 'em.
apologist right now. Look at your jacket.
I didn't draw this.
That's it. Throw
It
all
was
the
it was
responsibility away.
Wayne. It was Wayne's beautiful self
You
that
can
drew
tell
this.
because he's got that sort of spongy head. Like Wayne's head shapes are always very
Yeah,
spongy.
he has a distinct art style.
Yeah,
for
no,
sure.
I
That's
like
great.
it. It's very.
Yeah.
It's very friendly and approachable, just like Wayne.
Yeah, it's yeah. But no, but three of us in the band dressed like Ash Ketchum, and it was kind of funny because we decided that one of us was a Ditto. So yeah, it was funny.
Oh no.
Have you got the sniffles too, Trey?
I really think it's just the change in like the weather and whatnot. I'm not sick or anything, but like sinuses sometimes start getting a little fucky around this time, so I'm not really worried about that. Plus, I got Sonic Expo next week, so I can't afford to be sick, you know.
I mean, to be
So
fair,
I'm just
you can
gonna.
just take a fucking Dayquil and effectively ride as rain. In the UK, we don't have such medication.
You don't have
sometimes.
you don't have like
Only
Dayquil
sometimes,
or
though.
Oh, we don't have
Yeah.
Dayquil. Like that was the thing I noticed when I was in America.
I think we've had that.
We have had this discussion before. I'm sure we have. We'll skip it. Frank, how about you introduce the show today?
It's fine. Like, go ahead and talk about it. It's all
No,
cool. It's just like, wait, hold on. I
be
could have sworn
repetitive.
we've talked about this.
I want to be repetitive, but
It's just a reminder that countries are weird.
yeah, it's just we can't.
All of them.
We're very careful with what we put in our medication, you see. And maybe
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not
Americans
careful.
don't care.
I would
Yeah.
rather take meds to feel better than take meds and be like, oh yeah, at least my liver's not gonna rot in 10 years. Just eat lots of liver, then it won't know what liver to attack, you know? Like, I don't eat liver, I hate liver. But,
Yeah, that's exactly how that works.
If only that was how it worked. You'd see a lot more people eating liver these days. I don't think I'd be able to.
It's just gross, it's grim, isn't it? I made
It just
a
seems like it
delicious
just seems weird.
chicken stew. Does anyone want me to mail them some? In like a wet brown bag?
Sure,
Hell yeah.
absolutely.
It's been getting kind of cold lately, so yeah, actually that would sound really nice.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool. I call it the cure, just because it just cures you of whatever ailments you have. Anyways, Frank, how would you like to introduce the show today?
In Spanish. No, I'm just kidding. I don't.
why not?
I'm not fluent enough.
No, go on. You promised us in
Because
Spanish.
I would have.
You promised.
No, I
Oh,
didn't.
wait.
No, I
Hold
didn't.
on. Frank. Can it be a thing where it's like one of us does it in English and then you're like the Disney train ride where you repeat it in Spanish? Could you do that?
Again, I can't speak enough Spanish to make that work.
Come on, be the Matterhorn.
We would have to script
Matterhorn.
that. I'd have to write.
Yeah, that's we'd have to prepare it. Fair enough.
Yeah,
Welcome
we'd have to prepare that
Sunset
one.
Splash Mountain, the slightly racially insensitive ride. Go on.
No, that got changed. I think it got changed
It's
to like
getting
a
changed. It will be changed to a Princess
Yeah.
and the Frog themed bayou.
yeah.
Right.
Which
What I found
yeah.
really fucking funny though is obviously that film that ride is based on Song of the South, but when you get out to the little merch store,
Oh no!
if you get out to the little merch store, they've got all this Song of the South merch, which is branded as Splash Mountain. Like, yes, from Splash Mountain and nothing else.
And nothing else.
And nothing else is crazy.
In the next one is going to be a whole merch store based on the Lemmings.
So what you're saying is Song of the South 2 coming soon.
It'll be flying off the shelves and off the cliff.
I had the Lemmings on the Sega Mega Drive. Never knew how to play it. Couldn't get past the title screen. I don't think it worked. But yeah.
Okay.
Go on, Frank, and play us in. Let's do this. Or not.
Welcome everybody to Sunset City, the Sonic podcast for the classic and modern age. I hope I got that right.
You did.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. I'm one of your hosts, Gotta Be Frank, and I am joined by Trey,
Hello, everyone.
Right.
and Channel Pup.
Hello, Frank, and hello, everyone else.
Okay, well,
All right, well, that's
And that's
the
as far
show,
as I can
everybody.
remember.
That's
the show. Bye.
There's the housekeeping. There is
Housekeeping.
We do have a bit of housekeeping. If you do send in a super chat, we will be reading it at the very end of the show. So to not break up the conversation. And this podcast is brought to you by our lovely patrons at patreon.com/oh crap, I said it again and I still don't have the link.
It doesn't matter.
Sunset
you
City
know where to
Tip
look.
Jar.
Come
Yeah,
and-
I know. I just didn't have it on the page.
Come and put your tip in
So,
our jar at the Sunset City tip jar.
I hate how you phrase that, but it's so good.
Put your tip.
Just the tip.
Just a tip. in the
No, I
tip
think
jar.
that's what it always says on. I think it says that on all of my live streams on my own channel is where the tip thing for restream is. It just says just the tip because I couldn't think of what to put there. Also, just a quick fish tank. There's 2 fishies in there. Hello, fish.
Hello.
Hello, fish tank. Hello.
And yeah, we move, we groove. Let's fucking do this. So today is devoted to talking about Sonic X Shadow Generations, mainly Shadow Generations spoiler discussion.
Ooh.
Yeah, we kind of did go over what were some of the changes in Sonic Generations, which wasn't much, but it was enough to get some of the people on the internet a little too mad. And I'm just to reiterate from last episode and what I've said on my streams. It's a nothing burger story. Whatever.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Like whoever fucking gave a shit about Sonic Generations' storyline.
I mean, I
that's
get it for
true.
preservation's sake, but that's as much as I'm willing to defend the old writing, just for preservation. That's all.
Yeah, like I still hold by the sentiment that the changes are kind of superfluous, especially if you've never played the game before. You're not going to notice. And to be fair, like I played through the Sonic Generations portion quickly after the Shadow Generations portion, and a lot of like the new dialogue changes really didn't bother me. Although you were right about the ending scene where Sonic's basically like like rapping his last line. It's that really was so funny to me.
Anyway,
'Cause I
bye,
was
Cousin
like,
Sonic. I gotta go. So I hope you learn a few
Yeah,
things.
it's like-
You know, you put them down on your
it's like,
CV, get a lot of
Yo,
jobs.
I hope you learn 2 things. I'm glad I'm talking to you. I mean, I don't know. And it just keeps going like that. And I'm just like, dude.
It literally has Ian Flynn
If anybody
pointing his
has
gun
heard
at
the
his head.
song, if anyone's ever heard the song "Imaginary Places" by Bus Driver, just think that for Sonic's dialogue.
Or just any Buster Rhymes song. Like literally, that's just how it
I was
works.
going with that because I had Tony Hawk's Underground on my mind.
Oh, okay.
Such a good game.
That is a good
Anyway,
game.
Shadow Generations.
Yeah, we can talk about that in depth now. Where the fuck do we want to start with this? Because there's a number of avenues we can kind of tackle this. We can talk about like endgame stuff. We can talk about kind of the last levels that we didn't talk about. The Doom Wing we didn't talk about. Obviously the story.
I think we could.
I think we could do like
work
a
our way to the.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry.
We can work our way to the end game stuff.
Okay, great.
And like, yeah, and
One
we can
question-
definitely like.
I really want to ask before I forget it. Has anyone here done the nuts and bolts mission yet?
I have not.
The what are you talking about? The 80 bolts and everything.
Yeah, the rocket.
Yeah, the one for
I have.
robotic
Yes.
Cubot.
Yeah, I have.
Frank, do you care if we spoil what that is?
Go for it. Go for it. I was gonna eventually get to it. I still haven't made my video on Shadow Generations, but I don't think I'm gonna like go for the bolts unless it's something worth talking about. So
Okay,
go for it.
You're about to find out. This genuinely made me laugh, to be honest. But what say you, Trey? How'd you feel about it?
So here's the thing. I was one of those people that got stuck on 79 bolts. I had to basically pull up like a guide of someone like going to every location and grabbing the bolts, and then I had to basically retrace my steps. And then I finally found it, and it was in the most obvious spot, and it was dumb. And then I got back, and I was just like, then the reward happened. I was like, okay, dude, whatever.
I
Like,
found it so fucking funny though that all this time you thought you were building a rocket, you're actually building a fucking cuckoo clock.
yeah, that is the reward.
That's
We're like,
genuinely the
Okay, now
funniest
I have
fucking-
to get it.
Yeah, that's genuinely
Yeah.
the funniest thing Orbot and Cubot have ever done is mistake a rocket-themed cuckoo clock for an actual rocket.
It yeah, no, it genuinely was just like, all right, dude, because I was expecting, because there's nothing else. That's the only thing that you get. It's just that little scene or whatever. Not even a scene, but that little dialogue prompt at the end.
I'm curious to know what you would have expected, like, if it wasn't that. Like, what would you have... What did you kind of imagine would be the reward for that?
I thought they were gonna, because like at the end of Generations proper, they have a rocket, right? Or in like I thought it was gonna be like I thought it was gonna be an explanation as to how like Eggman got home and away. Basically, like I thought they were going to do that number. That'd
be a hell of
no.
a time skip when you think about it. Like,
yeah,
that would lead to something that happens far after Shadow Generations is over.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, fair enough. But still, I thought it was going to be something along those lines because I'm like, oh, Rocket, and like that could explain how Eggman escaped the White Void with his, younger self, I guess you could call it,
I thought you would be able to go up in the rocket and play an Ikaruga-style space shooter.
No.
That would have been
on the dark side of the moon.
It's the secret final boss.
Oh,
surprise!
my gosh.
It's Mario Odyssey instead.
Nah.
That would have been a nice surprise if it was like, hey, here's a handful of new levels. It'd be like, okay, I think that's worth it.
What I found
that would have, yeah.
There's two little things I want to like quick tiny things that I want to address. There's been the conversations about censorship of the original Sonic generations. People like accusing kind of the Rouge and Amy stuff of being censorship. There's one bit of censorship in that game where I draw the fucking line, okay? And are you ready for this?
Oh boy, here we go.
You ready? In the
Yeah.
statue room, where they've got Licky, Hucky, and shit, they renamed Cucky to Clucky. And that's
been a thing for years.
It wasn't in the original Sonic generations, and it was only in Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. I put it down to Nintendo were not willing to have a character called Cucky in a game sharing its title with Mario, but apparently Sega's on that shit too. This is bullshit, okay? Because having a character called Cucky has given the Sonic fans bragging rights for decades, and now we don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
The biggest accomplishment for a franchise is having a character named Cucky.
Really, though, like, one of the first things I would ever say about Sonic to non-Sonic fans thinking about getting into it would be like, there's a character called Cucky. And then they'd be like, well, I'm fucking sold. Like, but no.
You know what? That's a great selling point.
Yeah, like, his name was Cucky. So funny.
His name was Cucky.
I just wish it had stayed that
And
way.
that's why IGN gave it a high score. Well, they gave it a lower score than...
That was the difference. That's why it didn't get a 10 out of 10. It could have got a 10 out of 10. It got a 9 out of 10 because they renamed Cucky to Clucky, which is pussy shit, in my opinion. And you're drawing attention to it by correcting it. Like, now everyone's gonna know, oh, you know why you can't be called Cucky. And then there was the other one. It's really weird to me that in the collection room for Shadow Generations, where you've got the little character bios, there's no Rouge.
Huh.
You've got the two
Rouge
Robotniks.
doesn't exist.
You got the two Robotniks, you got Orbot and Cubot, you got Big the Cat. It's really funny thinking about like the character roster for this game, because did you have it down as like Big the Cat and Orbot and Cubot? But yeah, you got those guys. No Rouge. Rouge is not listed in there.
Huh. That is weird.
Strange. So fucking strange. But yeah, okay, that's tiny.
She's in both stories in some way. That's like, you'd think they'd include her.
Yeah, I kind of thought, oh, maybe it's because she's in the Sonic story and they're not putting any Sonic story people in there. But A, you've got Shadow, and B, there's another one in there, I'm pretty sure, that was in Sonic Generations. But yeah, that's just a tiny little thing that I found a bit weird.
So when somebody told me about the collection room for Sonic Generations, like the remaster, that you could, hit select or something, and you'd end up in a completely different room.
Yeah,
and it has like a roll call of every enemy. There's one missing from it.
Oh, really?
So there's like two flying enemies. One of them's called
was it like
the Buzz Bomber, which is the blue one, and there's like a yellow one that's called the Buzzer, and that one's not in it. I was like, oh, that is a weird omission.
Was it in the original Sonic Generations trophy room?
I don't know if it's accessible in the original.
It is.
I don't know.
Just when you'd have to hold the button down, and then you'd get in there, and it would have like a prompt for you to enter codes. And I think like the idea was like, oh, you get the codes from like, I don't know, some kind of. I have no idea where they wanted you to get those codes because I had to Google it every time when I was a youngin'. But like,
okay,
yeah, it was monotonous, and I'm glad they didn't make us do that.
I would assume it's the same as I would assume it's the same as the original, which it's a very weird omission, but that's just coming from the guy who has a self-imposed challenge and has to know every badnik's name.
I guess they kind of just saw it as like Buzz Bomber, Buzz, same fucking thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But okay, I guess we'll talk story then for Shadow Generations.
All right, let's do it.
Sure, yeah, let's do it.
So I thought the story was good.
I thought it was great. I thought it was, I really still don't understand people's qualms with the Shadow Generations portion. By the way, I'm sorry if you hear any rain outside. It's raining pretty bad.
Oh, classic
out here.
Trey. Fucking bringing his fucking microphone into the biggest storm he can find.
That's
Yeah,
like what are you talking about?
Trey's playing the song "Stand" in the background. And you hear the rain. You hear my tea's gone.
Do
cold,
y'all
I'm
hear
wondering
the
why.
rain for real or not? Or nor?
Nah, Nar.
Nar.
Nor, okay.
Naruto.
I hate that. I hate it. I hate that completely.
Frank, what did you think of the story? Did you like the story?
Yeah, I actually thought it was nice. I was gonna save this for the video, but I'm like, screw it. Like, they finally did. They did what I thought was the unthinkable. They made a story that I actually gave a shit about.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think they successfully made me... I mean, I was always going to give kind of a shit about it anyway, because I do like Shadow. But, like, as it was, like, yeah, they had my attention, they had me invested. I mean, also Dark Beginnings as well. Really set that up really nicely. I think something that's really fun to look back on is that the game has about 15 minutes worth of cutscenes in it. So really, Dark Beginnings just ends up being, like, the first half of the story. But, like, yeah, no, I definitely think this was a strong story that capitalized on some of the missed potential of Sonic Generations' story. Like, one of the things I always thought back when I played Generations as a young'un was, like, we're going back to the time of Sonic Adventure, but there's no mention of Tikal. And we're going back to the time of Sonic Unleashed, but there's no mention of Chip or anything like that. And it felt very disappointing to me that we didn't really touch on...
Hold on. Chip is in the gallery room.
He's in the gallery, yes. But it felt very disappointing to me that it was like, we had an opportunity to either revisit or just kind of acknowledge the impact some characters might have made on these guys' lives and stuff. And I know some people like to do the whole thing of, oh, but Sonic's always moving forward. Yeah, but if he doesn't spare a thought for any of his friends, he's mentally ill, if that's the case. But like,
it's not how I would put it, but you know, it would make it seem like he just doesn't give a shit.
Ill.
Yeah, that's not the way I would put it, but I totally understand where you're coming
well, okay,
from.
I don't mean mental illness as in like he has anxiety or something. Well, my anxiety causes me to forget about my friend. No, I mean more that he's like a
Why
fucking...
am I identifying with all these Sonic characters? What the fuck? First the anxiety with him and Shadow and Letty. Never mind.
I mean more that he's like a fucking psychopath, and that human life,
there
or
you
just
go. Okay,
fellow animal life is just completely non-valuable.
I think that's why they made it a point. They made it a point for Sonic to talk about like, oh, we got to go save our friends first, then worry about this.
Yeah, smell the roses later. But the thing was, like, I always thought that back in the day with Generations, and it was really good that we had this. If we're going to do this, like, we're not going to tamper with the Sonic Generations portion, but we'll have a story that does capitalize on the potential of friends from the past that have been and gone, and these characters reuniting with them. And having a story dedicated to Shadow reuniting with Maria and Gerald was kind of a dream come true, you know? Like, actually getting to see how he would react to seeing them today, how they'd react to seeing him. You know, that was great.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
All right, well, that's the end of the episode, everybody.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I did have There was something that I played it again a few days ago, and it really had me thinking about how the hell does time travel work in the Sonic franchise?
Yeah, it's hard to fucking say. Like, I think the Time Eater's whole thing, though, is centered around the white world. I think there's some really good flavor text when you interact with Gerald, where he's basically just like, okay, time can heal itself, so what you do here will eventually just heal itself. And he said something along the lines of, like, he says something that contextualizes the white space, in that it's, like, just a nonsense zone where bits of the future and other timelines can bleed into it. So it's basically like, Time Eater's dragged you out of the timeline and taken you to this nonsense place. And I think that's probably the
And
best
also
way.
has dragged Gerald and dragged Maria into that white space as well.
Yeah, it's just completely fucking random, basically. Like,
So then once everything like goes back to normal, like will they have the memory of it? Like I just think about like stuff that's not said in the game, but I could speculate on. I think
don't
that's what
think
I kind
so.
of got into.
I think the implication with Gerald saying like it will heal itself and things will go back to normal is basically implying that like they will forget this.
I think
how does
like,
that work when in Sonic Generations that like Sonic like still sees classic Sonic, will still interact with him, and has full knowledge of who he is?
Well, time travel, baby, but also
Time travel. You can't.
He's
write
the
around
main
it, so-
character. He has to know, you know?
I mean that's another thing though. Is
I
like
mean,
Sonic Generations.
Tails
ending.
also knows.
Sonic Generations ending also kind of acknowledges that, where it's like, so what happens now? Is it going to be like a split timeline? And Tails just like, try not to think about it too much. Which I think was partly to acknowledge the whole, whoa, you're from another dimension thing from Forces, and also to kind of be like, it doesn't really fucking matter if they remember or not. They're not going to say anything.
Oh, wait, did they switch the where does he hide his rings to now talking about what happens to their timeline?
Yeah, because rings aren't canon. I'm actually not joking about that. Rings aren't canon.
Rings aren't canon.
I
I know
giant
that
rings
they
are
don't have.
canon. Giant rings are canon. Sonic Frontiers.
Yeah, no, you'd think so, but like, I think it was on the Bumblecast. It was mentioned that rings are just viewed by Sega as a game element, and that's it. They're just part of the gameplay, but they don't appear.
So fucking weird.
Okay,
So, like, there's
so-
lots of IDW. You never see any rings in the IDW comics. There's a comic where Sonic literally goes back to Green Hill Zone because of the Warp Topaz, and there's no rings there whatsoever. But then what's a bit baffling is, like, Frontiers has that one cutscene where the Supreme Titan and the End fucking suck all the rings out of Super Sonic. So they were clearly in universe there. The other thing being that, like, Sonic Prime Episode 1 went really hard on rings, and then not a single episode after that did.
I think it's like, so if Sega is able to distinguish between, I guess, like game elements and what's important in the world, then like, why did they even go through the trouble of explaining like the rails in the sky and stuff like that?
There's even that one cutscene where Sage is like, what's your end goal? It's like, oh, sometimes it's a spinning sign, sometimes it's a big old ring. Should Sonic be like, sometimes it's a big old, oh, what's that called? What? I don't know what to call it. It's a big spinning thing.
It's a big spinning. It's not a disc.
It's like a golden
a donut.
circle. Like,
yeah, it's like a big donut, and it's
Yeah,
like,
so-
what is happening?
Another thing that Ian Flynn has said, though, is that these things are constantly in a state of flux, that things are constantly moving and shifting around. But I just kind of want to go to Sega and be like, there should be no game element versus canon element thing. If it's in the gameplay, it should be canon to the story.
I think it's fine to, I guess, like suspend your disbelief and be like, okay, things are just a part of the game just because. That's
It's a
fine.
ring. It's rings. It's Sonic and rings.
No, I like rings are synonymous with
It's
Sonic. You know?
rings.
I mean,
It's
I
so,
always
like
kind of...
Sonic.
They're not
Sonic
secret
like Sonic
rings,
Rift.
you know. They're out. They're
But
out
I mean,
there.
that
you
was
know what I'm saying?
that was the origin of B theory as well. Was me kind of saying,
Yeah.
like, the funny thing is, like, you know, you look at a lot of like video game collectibles, and they tend to have like some kind of link to the theme of the game in some ways. Like you've got the jiggies
Yeah.
from Banjo-Kazooie and stuff like that. And
Of
with
course,
Sonic,
yeah.
like, rings are a totally random thing. They're completely synonymous with Sonic, but what do they actually have to do with that character? And so I kind
Right.
of came up with the idea that it's like, you know, the ecosystem's way of guiding Sonic to help. But like everyone laughed at that, so like, okay, rings aren't canon. Fine.
I think it's just the idea that bees shit them out.
Yeah,
that
no,
was funny.
it's a really funny idea. Is like they don't shit them out, okay? But like the idea that it's like, where'd the rings come from? Bees. But to be fair,
Yeah.
is that much sillier than where'd the Chaos Emeralds come from? Aliens. Like,
Aliens? No, it's not. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, no, it's not.
I missed when it came from a liquid water god. Or liquid, what do you call it? Whatever. That's close enough.
it's the same thing, though,
Yeah.
isn't it, when you think about it?
Yeah,
a gelatinous water god.
They're also
but
gelatinous.
but that's the thing. Like I think I viewed stuff like the Chaos Emeralds and the rings kind of the same, where like they just kind of always have been. Like I never needed to know the origin really of the rings or the Chaos Emeralds, because they were more so just like elements to push the story forward, or
I mean,
gameplay
just a
elements
quick
rather.
throwback. According to Archie Comics, the rings were founded by Nate Morgan, who was killed by Sonic the Hedgehog. And there's not even any jokes there. That's just how it is. He's like
Jesus Christ!
yeah, he's like this dwarf.
Sonic's a murderer.
Dwarf Morgan Freeman looking fella who is the father of rings, and Sonic threw a nuke at him for no reason.
That is insane.
Have you
So
got the
Sonic
hiccups?
is a murderer and a war criminal.
He's a lot
I got
of
the
things, dude.
hiccups.
But like, I don't know how much that compares to your boy Knuckles with Operation Big Wave.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I'm willing to admit that Knuckles is also a war criminal. He is a very incompetent military leader,
Dude, he would be.
which is why
he would be executed for that in the real world. I'm pretty sure. Like, that's got to be a firing squad execution right there.
Oh yeah. No, be like, hold on, Gerald, go to the side. You red echidna, you first.
Yeah, like literally, Knuckles would never be able to overcome that.
He'd run back to his island and never leave.
They need to decanonize Operation Big Wave, man. If you're going to decanonize anything, not the fucking rings, Operation Big Wave.
Operation Big Wave is crazy.
Just say a few details were spared from us, it was actually way smarter than it sounded, and then refuse to elaborate.
Well, I mean, then again, Sonic has gone into a helicopter and taken out everybody on board.
He didn't kill him.
I'm pretty sure that helicopter crashed.
They're fine. Don't worry about it.
They're fine.
They're fine.
What was it, like a Dragon Ball
it was a
Z thing?
gameplay element. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
fine.
Was it like Dragon Ball Z where it's like, oh no, it's taking out that helicopter. Thankfully, everybody made it out all right.
That is crazy. Yeah, no,
So
like
back to Shadow Generations.
The fucking helicopter landed in a bouncy house, okay? In a moon bounce. I'm trying to think of what you Americans call bouncy castles.
It's all synonymous with each other. Like it all makes sense.
It landed on a conveniently placed trampoline, and everyone was fine. And it ran out of gas before it landed.
It landed in the sauce.
In addition to sauce. Okay. Yeah, Shadow Generations' a story. Little details here and there. I liked that the fake Chaos Emerald was a part of the story.
Yeah,
I do
that was
like
so
that.
cool.
Yeah, that was cool. Because one of the biggest issues that I had because of the Generations rewrite was the whole like, what is it? Basically, whenever you're writing a story that's already like a prequel or something like that, you gotta put all of your toys back, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
You gotta make sure
back
that
in
everything
box.
everything within the context of that story makes sense after the fact. You know, so like having like Shadow with the fake emerald and everything, the fact that it was yellow in the original Generations and was able to like, you know, they were able to swap it out. I thought that was cool.
I thought it was cool, like when he did bring up like, oh, the fake emerald that Tails made. I'm like, holy shit! I didn't even think about that.
yeah, no, like it's
Like, where the fuck was that this whole time?
That being
Yeah,
said,
it's like-
considering his plan all along was to give Sonic the fake, why do you even bother fucking having that little game of push and shove?
Well, because
I mean, I
then
I don't know.
I think it'd be too obvious if he just gave up the emerald.
I think he just wanted to. Like, he just
That
wanted
too.
I mean, sometimes
It's like
people, yeah.
Like, it's been established in, like, Sonic Battle, for example. These guys don't feel pain in, like, that regard. Like, they can beat the ever-loving shit out of each other, and to them, it's just a little sparring match. And, like,
It's like Goku and Vegeta.
another thing worth noting is that Shadow clearly has a compassionate side towards Sonic, because there's that one instance where he considers using his Doom powers and then decides against it. You know? Like,
Yeah.
and he kind of rationalizes it as, you know, I'll do it on my own terms or not at all. But I think what was really happening there is that he's not willing to truly hurt Sonic. And,
Yeah.
yeah, I actually really quite liked how Sonic and Shadow's dynamic was in that one cutscene. But I tell you what, it really makes me want a game where Sonic and Shadow are side by side for the entire duration of it. And we can just see them bicker their way through this adventure where they kind of have to they're kind of forced into doing this together.
Yeah.
Mr. Terry Chaos has it right. Shadow just wanted some bro time.
Yeah,
You know what? Nothing wrong with that.
He just
That's-
wanted to push his
valid.
body up against Sonic's a few times and just.
He wanted bro
Yeah.
time, but he didn't want to give up. He didn't want to give up the real emerald. Yet.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But it's like there's clearly an element of enjoyment to the way these guys fight as well. Like how Sonic gleefully comes in, fucking flirting with him, and Shadow's also in on the. I'm gonna quote SA2 as well here. It's like the dialogue is like, "Hey Shadow, wanna fuck?" SA2 quote. Whoa.
Whoa, B rings. Anyways,
And the way they
It was
both
really
look
weird
at each
seeing
other.
Sonic's like, oh,
Sorry, go on.
what's up?
Oh, I was
No,
gonna say,
go ahead.
the way they both look at each other before running into the portal is like the way two little bros look at each other before finding a multiplayer game to play at a fucking shopping mall. Like,
yeah.
Basically, me and my best friend looking for like fucking Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City before we played it.
yeah, absolutely. It's
And
like,
then we played it. It's not a very good game.
that's the thing.
But,
is, like, I do like the fact that there's a little rivalry between Sonic and Shadow, and that it's not completely embittered. God, I fucking hate you, and I want you dead. Rivalry, so much as it is just kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, you want the emerald, huh? Well, I do have one I can give you, but first we're gonna have to bump uglies, you know? Like,
I mean, they're not bumping uglies. I think it's I mean, it's very
More
like.
of a just go for it.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's more like almost like a. It reminded me more of like a Dragon Ball Z type of interaction where it's like, oh, it's like a sparring match, basically.
Yeah.
You know, like that's basically what it kind of was to me, and and it is funny
I
too
always figured
because. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was just gonna say it is funny because like with the context of Shadow having the Doom powers and him obviously not using it in OG gens because it didn't exist conceptually yet. I think it was smart that it was like, no, I shouldn't do that because it's like, it's against like my honor. Basically, I was like, okay, well, I'm glad that like because I know that if the Doom powers were just never mentioned, everyone would be asking, well, why didn't he just use the Doom powers? If he already had the
Keep it on
ability.
an even playing field.
also, he'd probably
Yeah,
just
exactly.
fucking murder Sonic in the process as well.
Oh yeah, he would
That's
just
true.
obliterate him.
I've seen some people saying like, even with Doom powers, Sonic could have beaten him, and I'm like, guys, they're meant to be equals. They're like
Yeah.
Yeah,
equal
they're-
in ability. Like,
They're equal. It's just Shadow has alien DNA. Do with that knowledge what you will.
and Shadow can like shoot lasers at people and stuff, and also fly and do chaos control. You know what? Fuck it, they're not equals.
What
Yeah,
can
right?
Sonic do? He could dash along a line of rings. It used to be an attack, but it's not an attack anymore.
He can go quite fast. I mean, to be fair,
He could
Frontiers
sidestep. So can Shadow.
Sonic stands a chance, I guess, because he can like kick and stuff. He can kick things.
You know what? Honestly, that's like the one thing that I really wish Frontiers had. Despite the fact that I'm not the biggest fan of it, I really wish they had like a character fight against Shadow or something.
Well, actually,
Even if it's just like a fun little addition to just kind of throw in there, be like, hey, these two are going to fight each other. Good luck.
Shadow
He can
Generation
do everything
kind of
you can do.
tickled that pickle for me with the Mephiles fight. I was like, because you've got BioLizard and he's a big boy, and then you've got
Metal Overlord.
Metal
and,
Overlord and he's a big boy. And it's like, we've obviously had all the Titans in Sonic Frontiers. It was cool to kind of have a guy who's in the same weight class as you with Mephiles.
Yeah.
And it was cool how, like, eventually, like, halfway through the fight, he learns to defend himself from just the regular mash attack. So you have to do the Doom Blast on him every time. That was really cool. So I thought the Mephiles fight was actually an extremely cool fight that I would like to see expanded upon in future games with more character battles. Because I think the blueprints...
I do have a
agree.
slight complaint about the BioLizard fight.
Okay.
The orbs that he shoots that just go along the ground, he doesn't have any that kind of go like on the ground and then in the air. It'd probably make that slide useful for once.
True. Although I do appreciate how much
Oh,
better
that's
telegraphed
true.
that is than it was in Adventure 2, where you had like a split second to react to it, and you had to do the somersault, which was always very finicky. But like, they could have varied
that's
that up
true.
a bit, at least for hard mode as well. Like,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Hard
Like, it
mode,
would have
they
been
just made
nice
him
if it was
bigger.
closer.
Yeah.
Oh, they did.
Hard mode.
Interesting.
They made the actual the balls themselves bigger.
I think you have.
Oh, okay.
Don't quote me on that, but yeah.
I'll have to play hard mode for myself. I have not played it yet, but I've been wanting to.
He throws.
I think
his fat nuts
it's
at you.
worth it. Yeah.
Did you say not to spoil
Oh,
anything from hard
well,
mode, or
No,
For
I
I
said anything
don't
like
think
that.
anyone
well,
is saying.
well, yeah, hard mode BioLizard was, as far as I noticed, just no rings, basically.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Like it's pretty
okay,
much
that
well
might-
actually and there's a little bit of a difference in I think the second time he slams like his those like tentacle things that he has protruding out
Oh, he does it more. doesn't he?
he does it
His
more
arms.
and you do have to use chaos control in order to stop it this time.
And there's
because-
also the bit with
Oh.
where he's shooting projectiles at you, and you've got the chaos spear. I think he's a bit more aggressive
Yeah.
with that, like because I don't remember having.
Yeah.
Like I can fight the original without losing a single ring, but like hard mode, I found myself dying a few times. The Metal
Yeah.
Overlord fight got quite interesting because you do have rings for that one, but like the obstacles, there's way more obstacles there. And there's also like bits where it's like the ramp you'll need in order to make the attack will have a laser field in front of it, so you have to chaos spear that first. And there's a lot of that
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
reaction-based stuff. I haven't done the hard mode Mephiles fight yet, so I can't comment on that.
It's not too terribly different. I think the only thing is that it is also a case of no rings, and
Okay.
that does make it annoying because whenever you're not in Doom Morph, you have to just keep jumping and jumping and jumping. You can't dash. You can't air dash basically because there's no rings. So that's annoying.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Yeah, because the air dash does come in clutch in that boss.
it does, yes.
Oh,
Other than
there-
that, it's not too typically hard. But yeah,
Something I want to say about the Mephiles fight. That first attack he goes for, that's just SRB2. That's just the Metal Sonic fight where he dashes.
Oh,
off you
yeah,
and
you're
ricochets
right.
off the wall.
yeah.
I was like, that's SRB2.
That's
I
funny.
think there was probably some fan game inspiration in this anyway, because like Sunset Heights having those water jets, that was in Sonic Forces.
Oh, that
Overclocked.
was Overclocked. I actually just played through Overclocked the first time yesterday.
There's a
was
lot
super
of
fantastic,
areas
yeah.
where Overclocked does feel a lot like Shadow Generations. Like,
Yeah. I feel like the only real difference is that considering the branching pathways, because someone had this kind of like I don't know if it's a complaint, but more so just like a preference of like Shadow feeling a little slow in his portion of the game. And I think that's just because you have a lot to account for in terms of mechanics as well as the different pathways just being branching off. Like they sacrifice a little bit of speed for a good bit of control in Shadow Generations, and I think they made a great balance. And
yeah,
I
also,
Overclocked-
think it works.
going from like Shadow Generations to Sonic Generations, I'm not saying this is a diss. Sonic Generations came out in 2011 and gave us the best version of boost gameplay as of 2011. Shadow Generations feels astronomically better to control, I found.
And it should, because
You'd want
we're
it to,
in
right? Like
2024. If we're in 2024. That original game came out in 2011. Like you would think that we would be progressing.
No, but like
This is
obviously like,
progressing.
you had like
yeah,
you know Frontiers cyberspace and that felt like ass for the most part.
yeah, it did. No, it did.
Forces.
You're right.
Forces,
Like
yeah.
we regressed and then
the-
went a little bit better, and then we went to Shadow Generations, and like things are great.
yeah, we
Yeah,
did that.
like I'll be honest. I never hated the way that Forces controlled necessarily.
Yes,
I
you
think
did,
it was just
you fucking-
because. No, I did not.
No,
Shut
anyone
up.
who
I found the
Lying.
Forces gameplay to be like mindless.
You're lying.
No, that's the thing is that the level design just did not account. The level design just wasn't interesting enough.
I mean,
so
I
like,
think the thing is though, the level design being as dull as it was allowed them to cover up a lot of issues. Controller in Forces, because like, yeah, that game don't control too good. Like,
it's
it
classic
doesn't.
Sonic doesn't. No, but
well,
I
classic
actually
but
do.
Modern neither, to be honest, because like the thing with modern is there's not a gradual build up of speed in his base run speed. It goes.
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah.
It goes. It kind of just switches between two gears. You've got he's doing a little jog and then he just kicks into top speed without a gradual build up, and that sucks. But then turning.
No,
sucks.
I can-
You never need to turn though, so that's okay.
Yeah.
The homing
I
attack
do
fucking
agree.
Sucks. Like
Homing attack kind of just feels normal to me. It's just
my
kind
problem
of.
with the homing attack in Forces is you can only home attack things that are directly in front of you, which became a pain in the ass in the Zavok boss fight when you had like things by
Oh,
the side
yeah.
of you, and the homing attack was just not detecting them.
I think it's funny because I do like the idea of being able to control the homing attack and where it goes based on where you're facing. I think that's kind of cool, but it does end up hurting more than helping in forces in particular. And it's funny because I feel like a lot of those things were mitigated in Overclocked, because whenever I played that, I was like, I'm not having the same issues. I think the only thing is that sometimes the character controls are a little bit too quick for the level design, because there are some points where I was like getting kind of like hung up on like either like some of the elements, some of the in-ground elements blending into the background because of like color.
Yeah.
You know,
There's a lot going on screen in that game, and that's a good thing. But also, you do see where it kind of gets a little in the way of the gameplay experience. The other thing with Overclocked, and I've heard they fixed this, was that it had the jump system from Sonic Forces, and the way the jump worked in that game was like if you were moving at top speed, you'd be given more of a little hop upwards, but you'd get a lot of horizontal momentum in your jump. And that sounds good on paper until you cannot jump high enough to get over the thing you want to get over. And that was a problem with the initial release of Overclocked. However, I have been told that they fixed that in a very recent Sonic Hacking Contest patch.
It was called the Jump Update.
Excellent. Right, there we go. We've fixed like the main thing that I hoped they would. And been as literal as that. I think jumping in Shadow Generations and Sonic Frontiers has been actually okay. Frontiers, obviously, like when it first released, I didn't like how much you'd deaccelerate and lose your speed from a jump. But
I agreed.
Yeah.
Then, of course, we got Update 2, which allowed us to turn that off altogether. And goddamn, did that feel fun. Shadow, it's one of those things where I guess I would appreciate in future games if maybe we could have a bit more momentum carried into the jump. However, I also respect that with Shadow, everything is tuned to the level design. And I think that is more important.
That's definitely priority. Because I've always said this, I've never been the biggest fan of how Generations Unleashed and all of them controlled from a base level. But since the level design works so well around those character controllers, they make the game fun.
Yeah.
I'm still an adventure kind of like diehard in terms of character control for Sonic. And I think that Shadow Gens is the perfect blend between what I would want to see between the boost and adventure style, like base control, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of the best that the boost gameplay has felt, aside from, I guess, the open zone gameplay of Frontiers. But at the same time, you can tweak that one so much that it's like, what even is the overworld control of Frontiers? That, and I also appreciate that Shadow Generations...
It's whatever you make of it.
I also like that Shadow Generations has basic smoothing switched on, so that he's not fucking bumping all over the place when he runs.
He isn't bumping uglies.
He ain't bumping uglies.
As you like to say.
He ain't bumping uglies. Yeah, he bumping uglies. You want to fight about it?
Yeah, I said bump.
You were going to do it, weren't you? You were going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
We like Family Guy here.
But it's I think there's only a couple things with the controls in Shadow Gens that I'm not the biggest fan of, and it's not really more so how he controls, but it actually has everything to do with the chaos control. I wish there was a way to turn it off prematurely, because there's been plenty of times where like
where you just
I would turn and I kind of just have to wait, and then I waste it all, and it's like, oh well, I wish I could like switch it off, that way I could preserve at least some of it, and then I can go back to what I was doing. But then again, it might be a case where they probably had that implemented, but it was easily exploitable. So that's the reason why they didn't do that.
This isn't a big deal as well, but like I'm kind of hoping that like maybe a future patch will make it so that, for example, when you're playing Space Colony Arc Act 1, that you can skip Black Doom coming in and Shadow being like, you, and stuff like so that you could just get straight back into the gameplay. Just because that can be a bit of a hindrance. But like it's not a big deal.
Well, you would have to figure out how to transition that without the cutscene, and I'm pretty sure that'd be more awkward. And
you'd also need time. But I would be okay with just like a fade to black. But yeah, you'd have to compensate for like the timer in terms of like speed runs, etc. So I understand it'd be tricky, but that's just something to be wary of when you're having these big cinematic events in the middle of a Sonic level, is that they can they can be a bit of a roadblock to the rest of the gameplay. Again, really not a big deal, but it's just something I think I'd appreciate.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
A very small thing that since Trey was talking about the controls, one thing that I really wished that they did for console players is let you remap everything, because this is more of like a speed running thing. A couple of friends of mine and a friend of ours has been speed running the levels in the game, and you can only really rebind everything on PC. If you're on console, you're stuck to two different control schemes.
Even then on PC,
the current one and the legacy one.
Even on PC, you still can't rebind exactly the things that I would want to. For example, I would want to stick the spin dash back on the square button, but that would put the boost on there as well, because boost and spin dash share a bind. So even on PC, it's not quite as good as I want it to be. However, I will say I did try out Chaos Control on the left trigger. Not Chaos Control, Chaos Spear on the left trigger. And then Chaos Control being on the triangle button. And I found, it does feel a bit more intuitive.
Yeah, I've been doing that as well. Chaos Spear on the left trigger, but Chaos Control on the right trigger.
Yeah, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because I play on console. You know, I have my copy on Xbox Series X, which is why it's like, that would have been really nice for everyone. And I did try to get something started. Like, hey, this would be nice to have, and it didn't go very far.
Yeah,
I think I think if because I can't imagine it being impossible to add that feature to console, because there's other games
it'd be easy to do.
Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, it's the exact same thing as whatever you're doing on PC, effectively.
Yeah,
obviously
exactly.
You've got less keys to do it with, but still, not a lot of people really play with the keyboard.
Again, it's a very specific thing to request. It's not like something that would make or break a game. It's just like, if people want to get into speedrunning, here's a more comfortable control scheme that they can make themselves.
Yeah, I agree with
because
that.
I know you do have to use the Chaos Spear a lot for one of the tricks that you could do to keep your forward momentum, and it's not very comfortable having to jump and then have to do this claw thing.
Does that actually do anything? Because I've been trying.
Yeah, so Chaos Spear actually. So whenever you're jumping normally, it's the same with Frontier's base game, where jumping kind of kills your forward momentum.
Not to the same
double
extent,
jumping,
but
not to the same extent, but it does happen. But with Chaos Spear, it basically deactivates that deceleration, and you can fly through the air basically whenever you go off a jump. So
it looks
you just have to keep
cool
spanning
in action.
it. Oh, it's so satisfying whenever you can pull off little exploits like that, and then be able to get a good time. I actually got within the top 150 online with the first Space Colony Arc level.
Look, Trey's
because of
bragging again, Frank. God's
I'm
sake.
not. No, what I'm saying is that it's
bragging.
just
bragging.
they fine tune the controls. I did do one glitch though. It is don't know the speedrunner Emerald, who does speedrunning stuff. He's going to Expo. Great dude, awesome dude. Can't wait to see him again. He was playing through the first act of Space Colony Arc, and there is a gravity exploit. Those gravity panels, those green gravity panels, if you stomp on the little fence area, you can actually fling yourself in the direction of the gravity, super far. So it's dubbed the Yonky Sploinky. I'm not even joking. That's
Sploinky, that's awesome.
It's but someone and I did
do the Yonky Sploinky.
Do the Yonky Sploinky, but I did retweet a video where someone was doing that, and I got to execute that and got a pretty decent time doing that, as well as exploit Chaos Control, because that stops the time too. And I was like, oh, this is fun. It's the first game. This game is the first game in a while where I actually want to get better at it, which is funny.
This has been one of the more fun Sonic games to speedrun because of that learning curve.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And
I would want to learn that, but I'm pretty shit at speedrunning levels.
Same.
Because I can't rebind my controls. Although I'd probably put the Chaos Spear on the right trigger. I'm only saying if I'm gonna mash a button, or if I'm gonna be spamming something, I would want that on the right trigger, because I play first-person shooters, so it's a little more natural for me.
Well, look at me. I'm Frank, and I play first-person shoot.
And I'd probably put Chaos Control on B since you don't really use the slide.
The thing is, you use the stomp quite a bit though.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
true.
that's fair.
Never
Yeah.
mind. Never
Like
mind.
stomp
That goes
is
back on
genuinely
Y.
one of
and
the most
then-
useful fucking moves in recent Sonic games, just because it does give you a mean of killing all your speed. You know,
like if you're stuck
Yep.
like floating in the air and it's like, nope, I got to get down like immediately.
yeah.
So I can just boost again and go for another jump.
Like that was the one thing with like Sonic Dream Team was I really missed the stomp. Like,
Yeah, that's fair. And then they added it back, and it's like, okay, cool.
well, they didn't
Like, hell yeah.
outright add it back. They added it to like a skills menu, and you can earn it basically.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
but
weird.
I mean, still better than nothing, you know.
Better than nothing.
Fair
Also,
enough.
another cool thing that a
I
lot of
think I said
people
that about
don't
Mighty
really
Number 9.
know this about is the quick step function in Shadow Gens. A lot of
They
people
do
didn't
not-
like it.
They don't tell you well enough how that works.
They don't, but it is a thing where you can hold down each bumper and you can quick step or slide. Basically, it looks like he's just sliding
It's
and
like a
slide
very
for
wide
longer.
drift, isn't it?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Because that's
So-
also that's the thing is the amount of people, myself included, that there's that one bit where you're running down a pipe in one of the Black Doom sections, and like part of the floor is electrified, so you have to run in this spiral. And a lot of people
Yeah.
are like, "How the fuck do you actually do that?" You have to use that step slide thing that you've got.
Yep.
I would have never guessed that one.
Yeah, they don't really
I figured it's
teach
like,
you it well
okay,
enough.
you just go hold forward, don't boost, and then you just go to the right.
Because the thing is, I did see the prompt for those buttons come up, but the game doesn't really have the quick step, and I was just like, why would I quick step here when it doesn't fucking work? All he does is a little spin. But it's like, oh, okay, he spins into sort of like a steering. Like, it's effectively a
Yeah.
steer. So it's like, okay, alright. That, again, I don't think Shadow Generations does the best job at tutorializing. I think it's why people still have trouble with Doom Morph, even though I think that's
Yeah.
not too difficult of a move to really get to grips with.
I don't think so. I
You
think
give it like a few
yeah.
tries, and it's like, okay, now I understand how this works. But
Yeah, it's just
at
things like
first
the
it's
catapult
poorly
and-
explained.
Yeah, like, I thought, okay, so you can zip and you can swing. I didn't have any clue that you could fucking catapult it, effectively.
Right.
It is, yeah. Like I think Doom Morph gets a little bit of a bad rep, but I can't really blame the people
Deservingly
who.
so.
Yeah, but I
just
can't really. Yeah,
It's
well,
a really
no,
cool feature when you get to grips with it, though. Like, because, like, something I mentioned in my own review was I love that all of these power-ups are in service of your flow state. It's something that I think Sonic power-ups should do more often. Is, like, because, like, we had, like, the elemental shields were very good for that. Like, they would complement the flow state. But then, like, you go to things like the Wisps and the Emerald powers, and they kind of stop and go, you know? Like, you use a Wisp, you stop in place, and then you're going to use this
Yeah.
power, and it's used to explore a bit more, but that's it. It doesn't complement the speed run or the flow state. Whereas Shadow's
Yeah.
Doom powers really do. Like, Doom Morph, when you can get to grips with it, it's mostly optional, Doom Morph, in the main acts anyway. But, like,
right for sure.
But you can't hug Rouge with the Doom Morph.
listen, if Rouge wants me to turn into a squid, I'll turn into a squid. I don't fucking care. I'll find a way.
I like how like a lot of the power ups activate on their own based on the environment that you're in. You know,
Yeah.
like you're on the water. It's like, okay, you're on Doom Surf. You know, basically at that point. And then you're in the purple stuff. You have to find like a ball to
Thing, the
homing attack into.
yeah.
Yeah, but that's usually it's next to a spot where you would want to be anyways for the Doom Morph, and I think the only reason why they did that is kind of the same thing that I said before with the chaos control thing. They probably had it to where everything was environmental based on where Shadow landed. That's what he would turn into, but it was probably either a little bit too buggy for that power up, or it could be easily exploited.
I think Arlo said it quite well, is you can tell that the level designers were having a fuck ton of fun designing level stuff around these new features. Like,
For
I
sure,
think they saw
absolutely.
it as a means of really unlocking the bullpen for this, and it's like, we can now do pretty much anything with these levels because we have abilities that can accommodate for that. And yeah, like, Doom Surf is effectively a new means of water play. But okay, I guess before we get back to story, while we're on the subject of Doom powers, one we didn't talk about last week was Doom Wing. And
Yeah, we talked about it briefly, but we wanted to kind of save the rest of it for this because
obviously, like, I think Dylan had a perfectly fair point in that it is one of the first things you do in the game. But I think when you're playing the game, you don't necessarily know that. Like, when I played it the first time, I was like, oh, Doom Wing's this early. Okay. That and also just the way it works. Like, I would say Doom Wing is very much comparable to your endgame power-ups such as Supersonic. And that is basically what Doom Wing is this game's Supersonic.
Yeah. Or like if I had to make a comparison based on like an open world type thing, or not an open world, but kind of like a semi-open area, I think it's like the Red Star in Super Mario Galaxy, where you can like fly around and stuff like that whenever you acquire that power up.
I remember
so like yeah.
After the Tokyo Game Show trailer for Sonic Frontiers, where they first showed a teeny bit of the Giganto fight, just the beginning of it, my buddy Joey messages me. He's like, oh, do you think we'll get to play as Supersonic in the open zone? And I was like, that would be really cool. And obviously we didn't, because Supersonic was clearly just set up for the boss fights. But, like,
yeah,
I think with Shadow Generations and the way the Doomwing was handled, they've kind of got it unlocked. Like, that is how you can do it. Because it controls differently when you're actually in a boss fight that requires it, because you can then steer it up and down, whereas, like, in main gameplay, it's more of a glide and it runs out and stuff like that. So I think that's a great way of doing the Supersonic thing. And also the way it ticks down with the rings as well, 1 per second, and you can activate it at 50 rings. Again, very Supersonic coded. And I think a lot of what we're seeing here is kind of the blueprint for, like, future stuff you're going to see in future games. I wouldn't mind betting that in the next, Sonic Frontier sequel or whatever, we'll have Supersonic in the open zone and he'll play like Doomwing, effectively.
I honestly, like, I think Sonic Team has done, and I'm sorry if I'm taking up too much air, but like I think Sonic Team has done a great job recently of reusing assets and mechanics in a very tasteful way. I saw a tweet one time that said like, yeah, Shadow, don't think about it like you're in Sunset Heights and Chaos Island and one of these like you haven't even visited yet in the future, but don't worry, like, and all that stuff. It's like, and people were like, well,
that would be Chaos Island.
Yeah, it's like I wouldn't mind because it's already part of the engine, Hedgehog engine 2, stuff like that. That's what they were saying.
Yeah, and they have the assets for it.
Yeah, and even though they make a good point of like narratively, there's a little bit of confusion there. In my opinion, they reuse those assets in such a tasteful way, in such a fun way, to where I'm glad that they kind of focus more on polishing the gameplay, like loop and stuff like that, more so than creating brand new assets almost entirely, if that makes sense. Like I feel like they definitely took the budget that they had and just did the smartest decisions that they did with this game in particular.
Well, the other thing I was going to say is, I mean, obviously it is explained in the game by the flavor text with Gerald, where he's like, oh yeah, bits of other timelines and your future will bleed in here because white space is home to the past, present, and future. It's the fucking nonsense.
Yeah, for sure.
So when it came to the inclusion of Sunset Heights and Chaos Island, I mean, there were two very enticing things about that for me. Was either way, we were getting something new. In the case of Sunset Heights, it was a chance to play a level with this theming that wasn't puppy dog shit. And as for Chaos Island, obviously that's been recontextualized from an open zone to a straightforward level. So, like, I was very intrigued to see how that would play out. Whereas, like, you take Green Hill or Chemical Plant, we've seen it a million times before, and we've seen it in just about every way you can do it. If they did want to do a Green Hill open zone, I wouldn't say no, as long as it's, well done. But, like, the other thing I think this covers the base of is, how do we bring Sonic Generations up to date? Because I think it's a conversation a lot of us have probably had at some point in our lives is, if they were to revisit Sonic Generations, what post-Sonic Generations levels would you like to see added in there? And obviously they were going to leave the Sonic Generations half alone because they didn't want to mess with the original vision. They wanted that game to be the same great game it was in 2011. But with Shadow Generations, it was an opportunity to be like, yeah, what post-Sonic Generations levels could be included in a new Sonic Generations? Now, obviously, we could go a bit further with it. I would love to see a level from Sonic Mania in there. I think,
Yeah.
Imagine rather than Planet Wisp being the finale of Sonic Generations, you've still got Planet Wisp, but the final level is Titanic Monarch or something like that. That'd be a way more fitting ending.
Honestly, yeah.
With
It would have been cool with I'm so sorry for butting in,
it's
but
okay.
like now, like with the whole past, present, and future thing, I know like for the OG gens that wasn't the intent because it was supposed to be a celebration. It was the 20th anniversary, all that stuff, so they wanted it to be that way. But I think it would have been kind of cool in retrospect if they used Sonic Generations to tease a level in the next game. I know the next game was Lost World, but still,
I think
that would have been, because it's like, oh, this is your future, this is where you're going, and it's like, oh shit, like that would have built hype retrospectively now at this point, right? But like,
I wanted to joke about them teasing it. It was like, well, they have wisps.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like, yeah, whatever.
They have the burst.
If they ever bring the wisp back, I do hope it's more in line with what the Doom powers are, where they're more environmental based and
Time Eater was a tease for the next couple of Sonic games in that it's shit.
And that's pretty bad. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's pretty fucking bad.
Even to this day, I still barely understand how to do that fight. Even though I can do it, I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing?
You just hold the button down and hope for the best.
Yeah, I really don't think it's that hard. I think it's just not well put together. I wish that was the one thing that they could have changed, either do the 3DS version or just like tweak a good bit of the parameters in that fight to make it to where it's like not a slog.
If you don't want to fuck around with Sonic Generations, I think the best thing they could do is do like you got the Sonic story, the Shadow story, do a final story. And it's just Final Horizon the fuck out of Sonic Generations. Like,
I'm surprised they didn't do some kind of like final story.
Yeah, it goes to show that this wasn't intended to be that kind of thing, and it really was more of a Bowser's Fury kind of deal. But like, yeah, I mean, that's the thing is I was kind of thinking as well is like, Shadow Generations does give us an opportunity to have like a good Time Eater fight now, but we obviously don't get to fight Time Eater, so that kind of, it's a shame because Time Eater is a really cool presence in the Shadow Generations story, even though like he appears once, like his presence is still felt, especially in like how his theme plays when you're at the boss gates as well. Like, it reminded me, Time Eater is a cool idea, but it's just a shame we haven't got a good boss fight against him. That and it's a shame because, like, Shadow Generations, to all intents and purposes, it does give Generations a good final boss, because the Neo Devil Dream fight is excellent. But
that's true.
But it's still not the finale of that story, because Shadow Generations ends before Sonic Generations ends. So the finale is still really Time Eater, and that is such a shit ending.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's I don't know, and I guess it's also a thing where it's like there's like the argument for preservation, and I guess it's like they're okay with preserving it if it's like just the gameplay side of things, I'm assuming, but in terms of the story, they couldn't really give a shit about the story side, which I mean, fair enough, because no one really gave a shit about the story in OG gens anyways.
Censorship. I'm kidding.
It's kind of a weird 50-50 point, though, with the Generations remaster, I think. Like, we're very fixated on leaving it as is and not taking opportunities to improve it, but then the story is different. And it's just kind of like, it's a little strange to me. Like, that's a little bizarre. And even as it was, it's probably the least insufferable Pontaf script. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, it was one of those scripts that I just didn't really care whether they kept it the same or not, because there wasn't much there to go off of anyways. And I feel like a lot of people also misinterpret why people have a problem with some of the references. It's not the references themselves. It's the fact that, again, no one really talks like that in conversation. I think that's my biggest point.
Like, the dialogue in the Generations rewrite was quite clunky in parts, like, where characters would say kind of the more weedy thing, maybe, but it wouldn't be natural. I'm not saying that, like, Pontaf's dialogue was natural either.
Yeah, no.
But, like, it did have me wondering, like, when I was playing Sonic Generations, like, does Ian Flynn maybe have a bit of a struggle with natural-sounding dialogue? But then I went back to the Shadow Generations portion, I was like, no, he generally gets it. I think it's just a case of you're trying to write around something that's already written, and you have to match the pace of that original. Like, it's always going to end up being a bit clunky because you're effectively taking a round peg and sticking it in a square hole. And I could make it fit, but not everyone can, you know? Like, that's just how it is.
Now, is this with or without the time stones?
Without the time stones? No, I'm not saying I could make it fit as a writer. That was just a sex joke. I'm not claiming I'm better than Ian Flynn, but
no, but I don't know. I think like because the time stones thing, I see where people are coming from. Where it's like, oh, it makes sense, but in my opinion, considering that like Tails said he had a theory, you know, I would have liked for him to explain why
game theory.
Okay, I would like for Tails to explain why it wasn't the time stones or something like that, right? That way we can like, and I know that you can't necessarily do that because of the pacing of the scenes, but that's the thing. If you're doing a rewrite, then
all
like,
right, Tails tube time.
I mean, basically, because it's like I like the fact that Tails was just like, well, this like confirms my theory. You know,
I
like
want
this
to talk a little bit about the Halloween Tails tube toward the end, but
ooh, yeah, that was fun. I like that.
Yeah, that was a fun Tails tube. But
yeah,
getting back to
wait, was there actually a Tails tube?
There was a Halloween Tails tube.
Oh shit! Okay, I've never seen this.
But okay, getting back to we should talk more about Shadow Generation's story, I think, because there's a lot more that we haven't really touched upon.
Yeah,
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
this was a story that was going to rely on good animation to convey certain things, because the story is, like the original Generations, very simple, but it's kind of, once again, like Shadow Generations Dark Beginnings, it's a character study with Shadow, and things like Shadow's reaction to seeing Gerald Robotnik versus his reaction to seeing Maria, those were things that needed good animation. You couldn't convey that shit with Sonic Frontier animation. Like, you needed
where they
those
just
nuances.
stand around.
And something that Shadow Generations did, which was kind of like very unexpected, is that you've now got a combination of motion capture animation and standard manual animation, which was very interesting to me because they've abandoned motion capture since Sonic Unleashed. Unleashed being the last game to have mocap. And my god, going back to it, you can really fucking tell. But, like, this time we've got a really nice mix of it. So you've got all of that deliberation of the manual animation, plus the nuances that come with mocap. And something I really appreciated was when Shadow sees Gerald for the first time, his mouth hangs open, his eyes dilate, and he goes trembly. His body goes limp. Because he is seeing someone who would go on to betray him and go fucking nutso, but like he's not there yet, you know, and he's not quite sure how to react, and he kind of pulls himself together. But that was such a nice, subtle piece of nuanced animation, which I'd long grown past the point of expecting from Sonic. It's one of those things where, like, Boom Rise of Lyric up until this point had probably some of the best in-game animation of any Sonic game. This is outdoing even that because we're getting nuances that we didn't even see in Rise of Lyric, a game that nailed, like, expressive animation and squash and stretch and stuff like that. This game is doing things that are actually very challenging to convey, and I was impressed. I'm really fucking impressed.
Yeah, I completely agree with you that, like, and overall the animation team definitely stepped it up, because even like even taking into account Frontier's best moments with this game, there was obviously a step up in animation quality just across the board. It wasn't just like the dialogue boxes in the open zone area where you would have, like, you know, people just standing around and talking and moving very stiffly like a rotisserie chicken or something. You know what I mean? It was like it was that's what's his name, Box. That was a joke that he said. But regardless, I've recently rewatched some of this stuff because I'm ready for him to review Shadow Generations.
Did you see that we had him on the show at one point?
I did see that, and I'm jealous that I wasn't there to.
We'll have to get him back
I wasn't
on
able to be there.
We had him on at the time when Shadow Generations was first announced to kind of discuss what levels we'd like to see, and I think now that the game is out, I'd love to get him back in and chat with him.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, it's like, but you get what I mean. Is that, like, even in Sonic Frontier's, like, highest of heights, like, we saw a glimpse of what the animation team could do with Final Horizon, the final boss and everything, right? Because a lot of that stuff was very dynamic. It was very nice, even though the boss itself, they didn't convey
Frontiers
how to
knew
beat it.
how to kind of use camera work and kind of compensate.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, that's the thing, is like, you look at a lot of Sonic's fighting moves in that game, and they're very stiff and they're very pose-based, but we've got these cool poses, and we've got camera work that complements those poses. So, like, that kind of works. It's one of those things where I don't know how, like, direct game direction works versus cutscene direction or, like, stuff like that, but after seeing, like, the Titan fights, I would love to see Kishimoto direct an action movie. Like, I'd love to.
Sure.
I'd love to see like a Spider-Man fight scene or something, because like those fights went hard. Like in terms of like the QTEs, in terms of the individual things that were happening. Geography can be a bit iffy, but like on a whole, like he has big ideas in that department. If that is his role, I don't know if that is his role.
That's
or
his
not.
bag. Yeah, I think there's separate teams that work on the was it like the game mechanics side of things. And then people who kind of like,
like,
I think it's like, I think it's in tandem. Yeah.
Oftentimes, people that direct like cutscene and QuickTime event kind of stuff are credited as movie director. So I don't know, but whoever was in charge of that side of things did a really good job working within those limitations. And people have talked about how the Sonic models need an overhaul. They're like in dire need of like an overhaul to be more expressive. Because that's the thing is, even I've taken the Frontiers Sonic model into Blender and played with it, and you can't do eyebrow motion with that. Like, you just can't. It breaks the geometry if you try.
You can't, like, they have done it in Shadow Generations.
Yes, because Shadow Generations, that's something modders have pointed out, is that Shadow's rig is 10 times more elaborate than Sonic's was in Sonic Frontiers, which really gives me hope that, like, in the next Sonic game, maybe we'll have a Sonic that can emote like that. And that would be really good, because, like, the thing is, I don't mind if I still would love to have, like, a cel-shaded, stylized Sonic game. I'd still love that. But if they're genuinely committed to, this is the way Sonic games look, Shadow Generations looked good. Like, I'd be happy for them to stick with that. Like, I'd be content with that. I don't think Frontiers look good enough in that regard, but Shadow Generations does.
I agree. Frank, you got anything to add?
Honestly, not really. I'm just kind of enjoying the conversation.
Cool.
Sweetheart. He's a good listener,
Yeah.
Frank. That's,
he's good. Yeah, I need someone to listen to me like that, you know? I need someone.
Sometimes it's all you need to get, to get it up is a good listener. But
get what up? What are you talking about?
Yeah. Morale.
The self-esteem. Get the self-esteem up. The morale.
Morale up. That's what they call it. That's what they call it these days.
Oh, darling, my morale is up.
I'll call it whatever you want me to call it.
But I'm I'm in agreement. I remember seeing like a lot of the cutscenes or playing through Shadow Generations for the first time, and I was just kind of like taken aback because I'm just like, okay, like I've kind of been conditioned to what to expect, like with either Sonic Emotion or either like how emoting works in this series, and how like different like emotions themselves are conveyed, and stuff like that. And there was never a point in Shadow Generations where I felt confused by the expression, if that makes sense. Like,
there was never a point where you could mistake Shadow's intentions based on his facial expression.
Yeah, because like I think it's so funny because this part in Frontiers gets a little bit memed, but it's like Sonic and Knuckles' like bromance thing.
They are like, they need to fuck.
They need to get a room, but like I don't think that was the intention. I think it was really.
Dude. These are professionals. They know what they
did. They have to really get a room when there's almost nothing else on the island?
Yeah, they could have just. To be fair, they were both in heat, quite literally. They're in the desert. And you know what heat does to hormones.
Knuckles is isolated for a very long time. And he's the last of his tribe.
Despite the fact that his current character model is dog shit, like, he's a handsome dude. And, like,
Yeah.
I get it.
Is
And he knows how
is
to
this
use
one of
his
those
fist.
things? Is this one of those things where it's like a tree falls, but no one's there to hear it type of situation? Where it's like
Yes.
they can do that and
Exactly.
no one would
I
expect it.
I got the feeling that the one thing keeping them from just fucking each other's brains out was the fact that Knuckles was intangible. And I've seen people be like, "Pup, you're projecting. Pup, you're trying to fucking they're bros." And I'm like,
Pup's trying to fuck Knuckles.
brother. I'm like, maybe in fucking South America is this what brothers are like? But like, no, dude. These are a couple of horn hogs. They're a couple of fruit snacks. They are, yeah.
And there's nothing wrong
they're
with
just
that.
bros.
Like
You
if that
say-
was their, the thing is,
No,
if
there's
that
a
was
lot
their
wrong with
intention,
There's a bunch of
I
bros.
listened to several episodes of Ben Shapipu today, and I hate
oh my god, shut up.
it.
Shut the
Ben
fuck
Shapipu.
up.
Earlier, my housemate Sam and I were listening to anti-woke metal just to see what it was like.
Oh,
Oh no.
And I just turned to him and said, "This is literally epic."
This is literally epic.
what the fuck?
But yeah,
Ben Shapipu, everyone.
Ben Shapipu.
Shapoopy.
But like the thing is that like, okay, let's say they were trying to be, I guess, flirty, I guess for lack of a better term, in Sonic Frontiers. It still came off as kind of more creepy than anything, especially Sonic's like smile where his eyelids like were a little bit down. I'm like,
No,
is this
but,
Flirty
like-
eyes with the grin.
The thing is, it's not even just
like
the
the, "You
character
want it?"
animations; it's the camera work as well. Because there's that one bit where Knuckles is like, "I'm the last echidna. We have to repopulate Sonic," and then like it cuts to a close up of Sonic gazing Knuckles in the eyes, and then a close up to Knuckles gazing Sonic in the eyes, and they both laugh. But you know what you did there, camera operator? Like, because that's how kiss scenes are directed. That's how you direct the will they won't they kiss. They knew what they were doing. There's no way they didn't. They absolutely did.
I think Pup was alone on this one.
Yeah.
Nah, you're
I think
in
it's just
denial,
two
dude.
bros, and here's the thing. Like they're bros, and usually bros will just say or do weird shit, but never fully commit to it. That's what I'm
Yeah.
gonna say.
And that's fine. Like, who cares,
Nah,
right?
You're,
I think
you're in
that's
denial.
just how the
Sonic and Knuckles fancy
That's-
each other. That's canon.
That's
he
the
did not. He
that's
did.
the dynamic.
He never once looked at Amy like that, and she never once looked at him like that. I'm just saying, and you know, I'm all I'm saying is, all I'm saying.
This is going off the
According-
rails.
According to the Sonic fan base, Amy's entire feelings for Sonic are determined entirely around a line about flirting. Okay, so that confirms it. Empire State Photographic Department confirms it.
I think the point I'm making though is that with Shadow Generations, with the facial expressions, there was no sense of like confusion or anything. Like there was no sense of like, is this what they're intending to make me feel or to make me interpret the scene? You know what I mean? I feel like there was a lot of times in Frontiers where I was like, I feel like I should be sad, but I don't know. I'm not really feeling. It's not really grabbing me. You
I feel
know,
like I should be sad, but
Especially with like
but this
Sonic
kid's
walking
fucking
in the
singing.
frame. So,
Yeah,
think about the
but this
Coco.
kid, this little toddler, is just singing, you know, and I'm just like, what? Why is this happening? And that's more so just like, I guess, direction in terms of like, you know, the story beats themselves rather than just the animation. But I also feel like that's like part of it too. But like yeah,
yeah, kind of. I guess what I was getting at was like, yeah, Shadow Generations needed this level of nuanced animation to pull off what it was trying to do.
yep, agreed.
And I especially like how they made the pupils like dilate now as well. That was cool.
Yeah.
But okay, so Shadow this is not the same cowards run I win Shadow from IDW, and that like he rushes into things. Like his first thought when he sees like Maria and Gerald is, I cannot let them know what this situation is. Like they can't know their fates or anything like that. But he also immediately jumps to, perhaps I can change their fates. You know, like that's one of the first things he thinks. And then he optimistically tells them it's going to be okay. We're all going to be okay and stuff like that. And then obviously that feeds into the ending where he's like, oh, I can freeze time or something. He becomes more desperate because he realizes even in a white void where there is no time, his time still runs out. God, that's
Yeah.
fucking-
Yeah,
God, that's gut wrenching.
It's good shit.
Klonoa 1-ass ending. But
Oh no, I straight up, I straight up sobbed. I'm not gonna lie. Like I made that joke tweet where it's like I can't let the homies know I sobbed to this.
Because you're a woman.
But like, and what's wrong with that?
Cry like a girl. Men don't cry.
What's wrong?
Ever.
What's wrong with that?
Men do not cry ever.
Men do not
Again,
cry.
I think I'm on the whole like I don't react in that way, but
Yeah, no,
I
in
knew that
seriousness,
was a
I'm
very
with you.
powerful moment. Like I knew that was a very powerful moment, and I was impressed that they pulled it off.
Yeah, same.
I think there's just an air of like it's just very genuine. I don't know how else to describe it. It's
I know
like
that, in his live stream, Dylan was anticipating it being more aggressively emotional.
right.
And I think it's kind of tasteful in that it doesn't try desperately to make you sob.
Nah.
So much as it's just like, this is what happens.
This is
the
how it is,
consequence,
yeah.
and this is how Shadow feels about it, you know? And it's like, yeah, like, there's people saying, oh, this undoes Shadow 05. No, it really doesn't, because it's like, you can be over something, you know? You might have lost a pet, or a loved one, or a family member, or something like that, and you can move on, you know? You can live a happy life, but if you were face-to-face with that person again, but had limited time, it would be crushing, like...
Yeah.
So, like,
and then realize rather than be with them, you got to try and fix everything around it, and then realize, oh shit, they're going away.
Yeah, you can say like everything but them. And there's that one shot where like Gerald and Maria are side by side as they're fading away, and like that was really impactful. Also, like how Shadow kind of trembles a little bit, he shuts his eyes, and then like he runs away before he gets the chance to actually see them fade. And I thought that was a really nice little touch. You've got the teardrop, which was very Sonic X coded, because if you've ever seen like the end of season 2 or season 1, depending on if you're watching Japanese or American, like they do the whole thing of like, oh, how does Sonic actually feel about Chris? You know, does he see him as an actual friend, or is he just kind of a best of a bad situation thing? And then it's revealed that like, as Sonic is carrying Chris back home, you see like tears splashing on Chris's face, and they're Sonic's, you know? So, like, the Shadow thing reminded me a lot of that with the way his teardrop went to Rouge. Like, they don't explicitly show these guys sobbing and shit, but, like, they're quite private about it, you know?
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And I think that's...
I agree.
Applying that to Sonic as well, that's 1,000 times better than the dude just never cries. Like, the idea that maybe he has moments...
I think that's so bullshit.
Yeah, like, I think... He's just very private about it. Because, again, if he doesn't feel emotions like... Maybe he's not a crier, and that's fine. But if he doesn't feel sadness full stop, then it's like, again, he's a psychopath. Like...
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think, like... I don't know. Again, everything was just done so tastefully. Nothing felt hammy, if that makes sense. Nothing felt like it was overly, like... I don't know... playing it up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it didn't
like
feel like it was like hammering you over the head with the emotional side of things. It wasn't like emotionally manipulative storytelling, and I really respect that.
I think Frontiers suffered from that, where it just really felt like they were forcing you to feel a certain way, and it's like, no, I'm just getting taken out of this.
Yeah, that was my thing, is that like I appreciate Frontiers for setting, I guess, like the groundwork for
effort,
what was,
but
for what was to come. Yeah,
but, like I think the epitome of that is that Sage scene on Chaos Island, where like she. I think the thing is, the scene before that is amazing, and it's so unfortunate that it gets overshadowed by it. But the bit where Tails is like, "Hey, I need to go off on my own," and they have like a handshake, and they're seeing each other as equals. Tails isn't really Sonic's little bro in that scene, just so much as he is his brother. I thought that scene was immaculate. Then you got the bit with Sage, and it's like, oh, look at all these memories they've shared of standing around in the fucking cyberspace assets.
Yeah.
All those times they spent together in cyberspace.
I will never forget when I first saw that flashback and I heard the song. I'm like, who the fuck is on the microphone? Get them off.
When I first
get them out of here.
When I first saw it, though, I viewed it as such a victory because I was like, oh, it's a musical montage in Sonic. That's we're
Then
back.
You see the montage.
We don't need that. We don't.
No, but I was like, we're back to these cutscenes trying to be a little cinematic now, as opposed to just being game elements. Like, this is a win.
So,
and then you know what I did?
What'd
you do?
I internally projected the "When Somebody Loved Me" scene from Toy Story 2 onto it, and was just like, "That's what that is. That's the same thing."
It just doesn't work in an open world, open zone game.
Oh wait,
because
I
the
think
story...
it could, but the problem with it,
Oh yeah, I don't think. Yeah,
the problem
But
with
the problem is that you can,
sorry, go
like, all that dialogue you come across, you can access, you can get to that stuff like back to back to back. So, like, whenever you get to that is depending on how the player get. Like when you see one cutscene to the next one, it just depends on when the player gets to it. So it doesn't have.
Well,
it doesn't carry as much as what we see in Shadow Generations.
The problem with it for me is just that the scene doesn't fucking work on any fundamental level. In that, like, the singing
Right.
will take you out of it because there's no lyrics, so it's just no, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
yeah.
But then it's also the fact that
No, hey, goodbye.
It's the fact that they're trying to convey that Dr. Robotnik and Sage's relationship is a very business level kind of thing. You know, you have a duty to protect me. But that's only conveyed in dialogue because these cutscenes are just the characters standing the fuck around. So we just cut to shots of the characters just standing the fuck around, and it's like, what do I even pull from this? Okay, they stood there for
you need
bit.
you need the Eggman logs to understand it. Why do
Yeah,
we
but
need
that's
extra
the thing, is, like,
collectibles to understand the story? It's so stupid.
They stood there for a bit, and we're sad about it. That's what that scene is.
Not a boo boo.
Boo Boo is so insane. Oh my god. I think it also doesn't work because, like, I mean, they basically pulled like a musical thing, right? And this isn't a musical. It's not a musical. That's the
Well, it's
main
not,
takeaway.
but like
from
even
this.
non-musicals have montages. Like I was just,
I mean, yeah,
I was
but
just
like,
happy to see that they were trying for a cinematic element in there. And Lord knows, here's the thing, I had been wanting a scene like the one of Sonic and Chip in Adabat after Chip gets his memories back and they kind of reflect on the adventure, you know? They kind of take a minute to kind of soak everything in. Chip talks about how thankful he is to Sonic for showing him the world, for putting his own mission aside for him, and how without Sonic he'd never have learned how wonderful the world is and that people can be so nice and stuff like that. I adore that scene, and I felt like that kind of shit had been missing, and I was kind of like, with Frontiers, I was like, alright, we tried. We gave it a go at getting kind of back to that. Like,
there was definitely an attempt for sure, but yeah.
Up, I want to take that scene and ruin it with the music that plays for the Frontiers
do it. Nothing can
flashback
ruin
music.
that shit. But also for an in-engine
I'm going to
cutscene,
try it.
That looked
You're
so
gonna hear
good.
na na na.
No. You know, there's an instrumental version of that, and like if you played that over the scene, it would work 1,000 times better already. But the problem,
I don't know why they did the singing. That's the thing that I don't understand.
I don't know what it's called though.
the song is okay. So the song is referencing is "Dear Father," which is the credits theme of the original Frontiers release, and like Sage's theme in that version, I guess. But I think the song is called something like Light or something. I don't fucking know. But like, Heart and Soul. That's what it is.
Okay.
Heart and Soul.
Yeah,
okay.
Heart and Soul. I'm pretty sure it's called.
I found the actual Heart and Soul, and I'm just like, oh god, I forgot how it sounded so much worse than when I just make fun of it.
It's because they're trying to do the thing where, like, I think a lot of kids do feel sorry for themselves when they get told off by their pappy, and they'll have their own little internal sad song, and because kids can't sing for shit, that's a reference to that. But like, it's just, the whole thing is just way smarter than I am, I guess. I don't know, but like, Frontiers is better than me, okay? But we need to get back. We need to get back to the Shadow Generation story before it becomes another Frontiers podcast, because Lord knows that game is fun to talk about. But like, Shadow Generations handled emotional beats really well. There's one bit that did get me, like, not like crying because I'm way too much of a macho man to ever do anything stupid like that. But like,
Sure.
Because he considers himself a Sigma male.
yeah, if you know, if I didn't,
I think it's more of a Sugma male, like Sugma balls.
die.
Yeah.
If I didn't,
Working on it.
If I didn't hate tears the way Sonic does, like I might have gotten a bit choked up at this. Was the bit where Shadow is like, "I'm gonna fucking kill Black Doom. I'm gonna kill that motherfucker. I'm gonna get in his asshole and leave fucking wrappers everywhere. Fucking
All right, dude.
eat a fucking baby Ruth bar and leave the wrappers all over up in fucking Black Doom's anus." And then Maria's like, "Shadow, this ain't who the fuck you are, brother. Like, calm the fuck down." And it's playing the piano reflection music from Sonic Adventure 2. And I was like, at last, Sonic Adventure 2 too. But also, I was like, this is kind of... Because I've always said, Shadow is like... Where there's shadow, there's light, you know? Like, I've always kind of thought, like, bit, you know, silly, bit flowery maybe, but I've always kind of thought that's a cool way to kind of summarize the fact that Shadow does have goodness in him. And then Maria's like, "You know why I called you Shadow? It's because the shadow will show you where the light is." And I was like, oh my god, yes, they did the thing. That's awesome. That's so flowery, but it's awesome, you know? Like,
So
Yeah.
when I saw that cutscene, I'm like, wait, she named him?
she loves him.
I missed
so
something. Don't.
I mean,
so
as a
the thing
pet.
is, I as a pet,
that's
I
even
don't know if
worse.
that's any better.
I figured it'd be like
yeah,
a friend. You know, it's like
yeah.
they're like best friends or something.
No, but
Like a-
it's
like a-
the
That's what I
way-
got from them.
The way she's like, "Oh, can we meet him?" When in the opening cutscene, like that's like, you know, you're getting a puppy. But there's also that one bit in like Dark Beginnings where Shadow's like, "What's the problem?" And she's like, "Nothing. Look." It's kind of like how you talk to like a dog, where it's like, "No, nothing's wrong, you stupid fucking thing. You're just a good boy." You know, like Shadow's kind of like a pet. I think she finds him adorable. Like I think
I mean, fair, valid.
he's
Well,
a
it's either
good
that or
little
be
guy.
friends with Abe.
Abe.
And unfortunately, she was friends with him.
Imagine
Maria
being
was
friends
like
with-
a sister to me.
Imagine being friends with Oliver Garden. That's crazy.
Imagine being friends with the kid with the grey hair.
Yeah.
Oliver Garden.
He's different.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be his friend.
Yeah, he has
I don't wanna
homophobia
be
in
his
his
friend.
eyes, or
Fuck
whatever it's
off.
called. I don't know. Like,
Fucking born 50 years old.
Also, okay, so there's after Black Doom turns all the shit into Doom World, and Shadow is like, he's got the Doom wings and he's under that red lighting and shit. There's a shot there where he's grimacing at like the fucking Doom Angel in the sky. And that shot was in the thumbnail for like a international trailer for it. I thought that was a CGI render when I saw that in the thumbnail.
okay, so like I'm glad we're getting to this part, because the actual art style and overall fidelity of this game really blew me out of the water, especially in terms of in-game cutscenes. I'm just like, we're finally at the modern age. We're finally here.
We made it to
fin-
2019, guys.
we made it. I think at least 2021, in my opinion.
I
Like,
still, like 2019 games still look good. I mean, fucking
Oh, yeah,
2015 games. Arkham Knight, that shit was wizardry.
Oh, yeah.
I knew
Like,
he was going to go there. I knew he was going to go
But it
there.
No,
was
I
wizardry.
recently-
That shit
I'm okay
was
with it.
nothing
I'm okay
short
with
of
it.
wizardry.
also, like
I am
2016
more
with
than
Titanfall
okay with
2.
it, but I knew
Yeah.
he was going there.
Of course, I was going there.
But no, but like the thing is that like there was like, and of course you still see a little bit of stuff here where the Hedgehog Engine 2 still doesn't know how to like properly like load in certain assets, so you still see a little bit of pop in, but it's not nearly as egregious.
Nowhere
And, like,
near as egregious.
No one, yeah, and I
And
think
you
it
didn't
also
need
helps.
some kind of story reason to explain it.
You could get
yeah.
away with it now. Like, it was like, you know what? You know, this is just ordinary pop.
I think it also helps too that since like especially in the open zone aspect of it, it's so packed full of like platforming challenges, stuff like that. You don't really even have time to really even look around and look for pop in because you're too busy having fun with the game
to
and
be
doing
honest,
platforming
I-
challenges.
Even then,
For the sake of, like,
You
video and shit, I did
you
look.
don't see it very much.
I looked for it.
You don't see
and-
it very much.
Yeah, as Frank says. Like, there's little bits and pieces here and there, like the occasional robot or ring or something like that. But even then,
Right.
there's a slight fade on them as well, so it really doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah, like I actually, so I'm just kind of fiddling around in the open zone of Shadow Generations as we speak, and the only thing that's like truly popping
Shadow
in is
Generations
like
24.
Shadow
Okay,
Generations
listen,
24.
shut the fuck up, okay? Everyone outside of this podcast agrees that that was a weird thing to get fixated on.
Hey, speaking of weird things to get fixated on, since we are talking about the visuals, you know that prequel story thing that's included with Shadow Generations? Is it just me, or is it kind of weird that everything looks hand drawn, but Shadow looks like they just rendered him and just placed him in there?
What are you talking about? Oh, the Shadow's story thing, the fucking
the prologue thing, yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I just love that one shot
yeah.
though of like Black Doom and Doom's eye, because they look hard. You know, it goes hard, and I tend to think that in any photograph with me and a friend, I'm the little Doom's eye because he's a little guy, but he's part of it.
I like what is it?
I have a video idea. Not
You have a
like
video
a full YouTube video. I'm gonna make my first AMV, probably. Not.
That's awesome.
No, I had this idea kicking around since the game released on how Sega could make a trailer with it with a certain song, and I'm gonna try it.
So
Ooh.
I think the hardest thing I've ever seen for an AMV was Chow Mix. It's something that he showed us at Sonic Revolution. He literally reverted, I think, a laptop or something to like Windows XP so he could get a specific version of Windows Movie Maker to make a fucking AMV, which he then put on his laptop or tablet, stuck out at Sonic Revolution, just had it playing there. And he was just completely fucking nonchalant about it. It was the coolest fucking shit. Like,
Dude, like if there's anyone that's like so good at like especially nostalgic AMVs, it's Chow Mix. I remember at Expo last year, we had a music group called Sonic Rebirth like perform the Infinite theme, and Chow Mix, and it sucks because it didn't work at the concert itself, but then Chow Mix like we showed it to the audience like the day after. And it is probably the most hilarious thing I've ever seen.
the thing is,
It is so good.
I want Chow Mix to train me in the ways of the warrior, because like that guy could bring a fucking body pillow to a public event and look like the coolest guy in the room. Like,
oh yeah, no, he has that confidence for sure.
Yeah,
like
The warrior.
I
Way
want
of the
him to
warrior,
to be
yeah.
the way of the warrior, like his kind of warrior kind of thing. Because like,
yeah,
We can never get past the Knuckles show.
it's
The
a
way of the
part of
warrior.
the fabric of our DNA. You know, like I remember when we started Sunset City with
I'm
the
watching it.
original gang, forces would always be brought up because it was like the most recent instance of us being burned. We could not avoid bringing up Sonic Forces. And now I feel like Knuckles is like the new Sonic Forces to us.
the Knuckles TV show. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, Knuckles 24. Yeah,
Knuckles 24. Exactly.
Knuckles Paramount. Yeah.
Look, there are
Knuckles
times when I'm
Paramount
going to make
24.
the specification. It's just so funny to me that you guys got confused on a Sonic 4 thing, told me to be specific, and then fucking.
Are you talking about
lambasted
Sonic
me.
4? What year was that game? 20.
Oh, it doesn't fucking matter. At the end of
That
the
was
day,
2010.
No.
there's two episodes of it. I didn't
no.
even specify that, but like
Sonic 4 Episode 1, 2010.
So Shadow Generations' story in that fucking pre-final boss cutscene, when Shadow was like, "I'm letting go of the destructive anger, and I'm gonna honor your wish," and then he gave Maria genuinely the sweetest smile that Shadow has ever given anything.
That's the part where I was like, "Oh, dude! Like what? Like they're actually like letting them like smile and shit. Like that was awesome."
He smiled several times, but he's always got kind of a smirk. You know, he's always a.
It's more
always
like a
smirk rather
sarcastic,
than a
confidence
genuine
one.
smile.
The rare occasion where there was Sonic Forces, where like the fucking fake sun gets put out, and he has a genuine little smile. But in this case, he wasn't even trying to hide it. He had a big, warm smile on his face. And I was like, finally. And also the idea that he's kind of letting go of, like, a lot of his anger and stuff. And that he's going to kind of, you know, have a little more peace in his heart like Maria wanted him to. That makes me happy. You know, I want Shadow to be able to attain a certain degree of peace for himself. You know, the idea that he can be happy.
Yeah,
because if you have a character that can just never be happy, you're not gonna. Why are you gonna invest in them? Like, if they've got no personal goal of their own, you're not gonna invest in them. So establishing that Shadow is capable of that, and that, you know, he's willing to do that was a really good thing there. Also got to talk about Black Doom. This has to be probably one of the best non-Robotnik villain appearances in a Sonic game. Since, like,
without a doubt.
Since, like, OG Mephiles in, like, Sonic 06, I guess. Like, he was a fucking scene stealer. Just for what a cheeky little bastard he was, like.
No, I feel like there was nothing short of, like, excellence across the board in terms of, like, voice acting, direction, you know.
I agree.
Like,
Except Rouge.
Rouge, there was only one line that was, like, a little miffed about.
No, because the thing is, like, someone posted her lines from Sonic Riders, and she sounds quite natural in that, and that's good. In Shadow Generations, she's always doing this sound to her voice that she's been doing since Team Sonic Racing, and she's constantly squeaking. And it's like, stop. Just talk normally.
It's weird because she sounded pretty natural, in my opinion, in Dark Beginnings.
I agree, yeah, the voice direction there was better. I think, so again, not naming names or anything, not targeting anyone, but just like a note to the voice direction. Please decide if Rouge is a smart-spoken femme fatale or a fucking valley girl. Please make the distinction. And there is a correct answer. The former is the correct one. She's not a ditzy, whatever, sweet 16 valley girl. Like, no. Stop that. Stop it. You know, like,
that's what I was gonna mention, was the only line that kind of like took me out, because I could agree that like her voice was like a little bit squeaky and a little bit kind of like she's trying to put on a voice rather than just be natural. But like the whatever, like that took me out. I was like, okay, dude.
That was the thing was, like, all throughout the cutscene where she's like talking to Shadow about like the fake camera, was like, you can still hear her voice cracking because she's trying to be too snarky. Right. And it's like, if the actor's voice is cracking, it's going to sound like shit, and it sounds like shit. I'm not even like having a go at Karen Strassman in specific over whatever political mumbo jumbo, because that's an entirely separate conversation I can't be fucked with. But like, just if
it ain't worth it.
Yeah, if the actor's voice is breaking, you need to change direction, because like breaks in dialogue are
I completely agree with that sentiment of like, because like the whole political side of thing, and again, we're not going to jump into it. That's a whole different can of worms. But in my opinion, like, if the direction of the game was good, then yeah, of course I wouldn't support her, but I wouldn't be as like vocal about her performance in this game.
Yeah, like,
if that makes sense.
At the end of the day, if they can do the job, they can do the job. You know, but like, obviously, I'm always going to be more comfortable if, you know. It doesn't fucking matter. I don't want to go into it, but like,
Yeah. No, I get what you mean, though.
I think the concerns are valid. You know, I've heard valid stuff. Anyway,
for sure.
Yeah, Black Doom, like his whole plan to just, you know, like be inside Shadow in the end. I'm gonna
just become one. Yeah.
It's very, and again, Frank, you're gonna love it. It's very Arkham Knight coded. It is very much what the Joker's plan was in Batman Arkham Knight, was to just come inside
that is
Batman.
true.
I've never played that game, so when I get to it, I'll let you know.
Okay,
I played it, and it's a lot better than what people. Because I remember like Arkham Knight being almost like the black sheep of that series, but I thought it was
Origins
really fun.
was considered the black sheep, but I think Origins is also
I believe it was Origins.
That said, a lot of people do consider Arkham Knight to be the weakest of the Rocksteady ones, but I'm
just gonna say, if you want one game to just kind of say as much shit you want about, just go to Blackgate, okay?
I still enjoy
talk shit about
enough.
Blackgate.
But
it's an atrocious Metroidvania.
I found it alright. I was like, as far as a 2D translation of the Arkham games go, I thought it was okay. But okay, for Arkham Knight, like,
I disagree.
A lot of people say the story's dumb, but I'm like, what do you mean the story for Arkham City wasn't dumb? Like, they're all fucking dumb. The only one that doesn't have a dumb story is Origins. But anyway,
that's true.
Getting back to the Sonic Shadow,
the Sonic podcast,
for
the
classic and modern fan or age,
yeah, exactly.
Age,
for the Republican and Democrat age, because it's election week.
That's true.
Yes.
You know what sucks? I'm just gonna get this out of the way and then I'll be done. Even when it's supposed to be over, we still fucking hear about it. There, rant over.
You're gonna be fine. Don't worry about it. The sun will still rise regardless.
Until the one day that the giant meteor says that it's not gonna work for me.
Yeah, that's the thing is, ultimately there's bigger things to worry about, like meteors. But okay,
regardless.
Back to the point at hand. I speak from a place of privilege.
That weird bat is searching for things on meteors. What the hell?
Me embracing the meteor, hoping Rouge the Bat will be on it. But
Meteor? I barely know her. You know what I'm saying? Anyways.
It made me super happy whenever we'd actually see Black Doom in his Black Doom form, especially in like the pre-final boss cutscene where you got to really get a proper good look at him. I was like, this is awesome. Shadow and Black Doom face to face again. They really they really nailed the kind of nemesis dynamic between the two. But speaking of like also scene stealing villains, and I know that this is going to be kind of a controversial take because of some bits and pieces, but Mephiles, because here's the thing is, he wasn't just a character battle. Like, this wasn't just like Sonic Generations, where it's like, oh, I see you in the white world, I'm gonna fucking kill you. There was lore to this. Like, from the fact that he was buried deep beneath the white world, like literally buried by time itself. And I will say this, I kind of wish the trailers hadn't shown that, because, like, imagine going to that cave and discovering Mephiles was in there, but at the same fucking time, the reaction to that trailer, and, like, the reaction to that trailer at the Sonic Symphony, okay, it's worth it. Just seeing everyone get that hyped and, scream and shit, it was worth it. But, yeah, just the fact that this guy's been buried by time, and that his motivation in this one, rather than being the big dog who's pulling all the strings, is he's just this creature that wants to exist. Like, he's a being of pure evil, desperate to make his way back to reality, and you're not gonna let him. That was fucking awesome.
It was some of the coolest shit in that game.
I agree completely. And I'm glad that, we finally got our return to Mephiles after all these years. And we actually did something cool with him, like, narratively. It wasn't just, hey, I'm gonna get you, I'm in the white world, boo. It was actually a proper fight.
I appreciate that Shadow is not like, I'm gonna kill everything because that's just what I do. Like with BioLizard, it's like, no, I'm gonna put you out of your misery.
Yeah, I'm gonna put you out of your misery. With Metal Overlord, obviously, why wouldn't he destroy him? And Mephiles seems like such a fucking... Like, I don't even know you, but you seem like a bastard, so I'm gonna have to kill you.
I don't know who you are, but I'm sure you're a jerk. It's like, what? I just got here.
It's like, you took everything. Like, I made that meme where it's like, you took everything from me. It's like, I don't even know who you are. It's like, that's the entirety of that boss fight.
That was such an awesome fight, though. And, like, I know that, so the reason I mentioned that it might be a controversial opinion is because, obviously, they've got a new voice actor for it. It's not Dan Green. It's, was it Robbie Daymond?
I think so, yeah. It's the same voice actor that voices the main character in Hi-Fi Rush, Chai, which I thought was very interesting.
He voiced Spider-Man in the Marvel Spider-Man 2018 TV series. Marvel Spider-Man 2017? Terrible series, but he did a fine job as Peter Parker. But yeah, so, like, he's not Dan Green. He's not trying to do a Dan Green impersonation or anything like that. It's a different take, but naturally it's quite jarring for a lot of people. I was about to say, how do we kind of feel about it?
I didn't mind it, and I think it's only because, like, even though I've played 06 a handful of times, I also, like, am not nearly as invested in that game as other people are. So I don't think I have a very accurate representation of, like, a Sonic fan who does love that game and loves, Dan Green's voice. It did kind of put me off at first because Mephiles' voice in Shadow Gens is just a tad bit in the higher register than Dan Green's voice is.
He sounds younger,
but yeah, he sounds younger, which
and Mephiles had a very distinct voice as well. That is true. Gruff sort of sound to him, like a very, very gruff, lavishing in the evil and the theatrics and stuff.
I think the gruffness is still there for sure, and I feel like the voice actor did a great job with what they were given. I didn't mind it. Like, I really doubt we're gonna see Mephiles again. Like in all honesty,
I
so
feel like that line from Shadow where he's like, "There is no future for you ever," was kind of like a
kind of like a nail in the coffin by
it's
the
kind of like
execs.
Mephiles isn't coming back, guys. But like, this is your last little shot.
Enjoy Mephiles because he's dead.
He's a demon that
It's like
exists in the void. Granted, he was put back in the scepter.
He went to Otherworld and then he died.
He was, to be fair, put back in the scepter rather than killed. I think also, like, the success of this game will determine a few things. I think, given that this game is successful, we might see more of Black Doom. We might see more shadow-focused titles. And, if Mephiles was well received, maybe we will see more of him. But, because that could also just be Shadow talking a big game like he always fucking does. And then, like, when we next see him, he's like, Shadow, you underestimated me. But, like,
Right.
Because I think the potential is absolutely there. I would love to have a game that is just like, Mephiles has escaped the void, and now everything is at stake. You know, like, probably one of the most dangerous villains in Sonic history is out. Like,
I agree. I also love that the move that he has, the little like beam, like the sword beam of light
the
or
move
whatever
that
you
kills
want to call
Sonic.
it's literally called the move that kills Sonic, and I think that's really funny because a lot of people were like, well, of course it didn't work on Shadow. Like, Shadow's not Sonic, This is the move that kills Sonic, not Shadow, Like, classic
Sonic
mistake,
was distracted.
Yeah, classic mistake. Like,
Sonic was looking at that human and was like, "Sup?"
Yeah. It's like, yo, what up?
Did
trying to
we like bang or something? Yo.
Yo, I'm dead. Like,
Saw, dude.
Yeah, we're just going off of Rouge's voice direction. Now everyone is like
Now
a Valley Girl or a frat boy. Yeah, now everyone's a Valley Girl or a frat boy. We're just like, dude.
I mean, to be fair, Sonic colors Sonic sounds like
he's
like
very
he's
very frat boy.
I described
how are you
him
doing,
as
kids?
like the guy that drives his 14-year-old girlfriend to Nando's in his Vauxhall Corsa. But that's a very British analogy, so that's not going to make a lot of sense.
I was going to say
Like,
Vauxhall Corsa. What is that?
What do you mean you don't know what a Vauxhall Corsa is? You don't have Vauxhall Corsas in America?
No, we don't have Vauxhall Corsas in America.
Okay, Vauxhall Corsas. I'll find a picture.
Okay.
Vauxhall Corsa.
You could have said like a, I don't know.
Oh,
It's just a car. It's just
like
a
a van.
regular-ass car.
You could have said like a Volkswagen like Golf or something.
No, because a Volkswagen Golf is like not like a. So a Vauxhall Corsa is gonna be more likely to be like an early car in your life, whereas like a Volkswagen Golf.
Oh, like a beater.
Yeah,
like
the
a
idea
fucking
is like these
shit
are
box.
guys. The
Yeah.
idea is like a 21-year-old fuckboy with a girlfriend way too young for him taking her to Nando's.
Oh yeah, like it's probably like a AMC Javelin or something like that.
I
where it's
gotta
like
hand it to the eggster. This the fucking shit.
He was like, this place is epic, dude.
This place is
You
taking
go-
beauty to the next level.
It's like, dude, you go by 6th Street and then you take a right and then you can go down and you hit the beach, man. It's
I'm so
fucking crazy.
one thing that has to be said is I'm so glad that Ian Flynn nixed every line of dialogue about beatdowns in fucking Generations. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to avoid an embarrassing beatdown, you better give up now. It's like, dude, stop with the beatdown bullshit. Sonic don't beat down.
Sonic just wants to beat him.
Amy, you're so going to get the big beatdown.
I'm calling it the big beatdown. Yeah, no,
Amy,
like that's
I
Just
can't
like this
smash
game,
you.
these hands are ready to eat for everyone.
Yeah, no.
That
I
is
feel
my
like
favorite line from Devon Max Sonic is that, Amy, I can't smash you.
What? I don't even remember that. What the fuck?
That's a line of dialogue from Sonic Prime Season 1 where Sonic is about to kick the Jungle Universe Amy. But then he stops himself and goes, Amy, I can't smash you. It's like they knew what they were doing there.
That's insane.
There's another one where like Sonic runs into a trap in Season 2 and Knuckles is like, he loves traps. And it's like, come on, you know what you're doing.
Wow. I didn't get past
then.
Season 1 of Sonic Prime.
I've never seen the show.
Personally.
It has its moments. I'll say, like, because I know that, like, Sunset City episodes have been incredibly down on Sonic Prime in the past. It has its moments. There are some episodes that I could safely say, like, just watch these ones and you've basically got enough of the story and all the good moments.
I'm good. Oh, I'll just watch Mickey Mouse, whatever the fuck it's called.
There we go. Original joke.
I don't care if it's an original joke
No,
or not. It's a joke
I
I'm
agree.
willing to run with.
It's quite childish by like the standard of like Sonic cartoons up until that point.
Yeah.
But okay, kind of I wanted to talk. Well, I'll say myself, I didn't mind Mephiles' new voice either. Like, I thought he sounded like Vegeta. Like, but he still had that kind of very menacing sound to him. He just sounded a bit younger. And as I've said, you know, Roger Craig Smith does not sound like Jason Griffith. I still think Roger Craig Smith is a great Sonic. And, you know, like Lisa Ortiz and Cindy Robinson sound nothing alike, but I think they're both great. I am, you know, more excited to hear what different actors bring to these roles than just impersonations. What I find really funny, though, is that apparently Sean Schemmel did audition for the role of Black Doom and lost it to Ben Diskin.
That's funny.
That's got to be kind of an L. Like, you'd be fuming if it's like, this is the character I established the voice for, and they thought this other guy could do it better than I could. But I'm going to be honest, I prefer Ben Diskin. He's a bit more sinister.
I also love that he's rebranded his Twitter to just be Black Doom. I think
great.
like Sam's legendary because of like Dragon Ball and stuff like that. Like I'm never gonna take that
He's
away.
a legendary
but, like,
actor, but the thing about Sean Schemmel is that Sean Schemmel, there's something he said that makes me intrinsically dislike him, and it was when he was asked about like a fan.
Is it about Team 4-Star?
I think so. He was asked about like a fan project at a panel. He was like, "Look, I don't support fan projects in any way. You don't own the IP, so you have no right to really do that. I'm not endorsing that stuff."
He's technically right, but he's also a dick.
Yeah, it's like, dude, stop being a fucking narc and just enjoy the show.
Yeah,
like,
and it's funny because you have like other people embrace it.
Yeah, he comes across as the kind of guy that would call the police if he saw like a mother shoplifting.
He would remind the teacher that they had to assign homework.
Yeah, right. Like he'd see someone smoking weed outside their apartment in a non-smoking weed state or country and call the police. Like, fuck off.
And after the police is called, would try to lecture them.
Like, fan projects might not be legally authorized, but fuck you. They are part of the lifeblood of any fucking IP's DNA. Like,
and plus there's like a better way to convey, like, you possibly don't support it, but you could also be like, I think it's very cool and there's some talented people. I just don't personally invest in it only because they don't own the IP and stuff like that. Like, there's better ways to convey
just be like,
your thought process.
I can't comment on it because like I'm just, you know, I'm not allowed to comment on that kind of thing. Like,
like you don't have to be like, oh, I'm never supporting a fan project because it's like, okay, dude, like,
it's okay, Mr. Big Cog, you know, like, but
maybe that's the reason why
Diskin was like, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna use Twitter as Black Doom for the next few days and just answer fan questions.
I think that's like, I want more voice actors in these roles to just have fun with it. Like that's what's been missing, is the kind of like you know, like Frontiers was a big overcorrection in terms of the goofy nature of like Sonic up until that point. But like, I've always loved like whenever like people who are officially involved can like have fun, you know, with this IP and just like, you know, not take things too terribly seriously. Like the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, for example, is a great example of that, where it's like, it was an April Fool's kind of like quote unquote joke game, but it was very good and everyone had fun with it. Yeah, it's I played it, whatever. I got my PC fixed, and I was like kind of blown away at how much game was in that little game. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I played it and made as many wrong choices as I can, because Tails' face whenever you make like a wrong choice is funny to me.
Yeah,
also just like making him like eat the fucking licked peanuts as well.
I also like another thing I wanted to kind of mention is I also love how now we're kind of in a state with the Sonic series where there's no like fear of just the Sonic series being itself anymore, if that makes sense. It's like,
yeah, they know
the biggest points of scrutiny with the Sonic franchise, in my opinion, were Shadow the Hedgehog the game and Sonic 06, right? In terms of their stories and how like overly
Heroes
serious
should have totally been included, but okay.
Heroes wasn't. No one looks at Heroes from like a general perspective as like the true like downfall, quote
It
unquote, of
deserves
Sonic.
it. I'm just saying.
But it's not, and that's
But it
just how
deserves to be
historically
viewed that way.
is historically no.
It is worse
No.
than 06 and Shadow. I'm fucking dying on that hill.
I will agree that Shadow the Hedgehog does control better than Heroes, and I got kind of crucified for that.
Drenched in unpleasant game feel, and I cannot look past that.
That's very fair. But what I'm saying is that the Sonic series 10 years ago would never even think about touching Black Doom or Mephiles ever again. You know what I mean? They would never, like, I would never in 2014 have been like, oh yeah, like in 10 years time we're gonna see Mephiles and Black Doom in a mainline game again. You know, like I was like, nah, like I'm pretty sure a fan project will do something with them, but not the main series. But now the main series has done that and has executed it super well, and no one is making fun of it in my, like, from what I see. Of course there's probably some people who are like, oh, this is corny and cheesy, but it's not like an overwhelming hatred of these concepts like it used to be.
That's the thing that made me happy as well, is like we had like kind of the era of like Sonic's stupid friends and stuff. I mean, when I was at the Sonic Symphony, anytime a niche Sonic character or whatever would show up, the crowd would be roaring and stuff. Like, you know, Blaze the cat shows up on screen, everyone's roaring and stuff. People love that. And it was kind of like, I feel like this is sending a good message because, again, no offense to anyone that grew up with the Mega Drive era and stuff like that, because I think there were understandable concerns, but what happened when the Mega Drive kids made their way online was, if it's new, it's bad. And there were admittedly instances of bad execution on Sega's part. I'm not saying that there was nothing wrong with Sonic 06 and Shadow the Hedgehog, but there was a lot of just, like, if you look back at message boards from around the time Sonic 4 released, like, the Mega Drive kids were dominating that conversation. They didn't want Sonic's stupid friends. They didn't want this 3D nonsense and stuff like that. And the thing is, as much as I've given Sega shit, it is commendable that they kept Sonic going alone, considering how companies like Ubisoft have treated Rayman and stuff like that. It's commendable not only that they kept Sonic going, but that they've kept on trying with 3D Sonic until they've gotten to points where they've gotten it right, and they've kept on trying. And the fact that they actually revisited this stuff, I do think some of that is down to the fact that now that we've got more generations than just the Mega Drive kids online, we've now got, you know, there's no singular voice dominating that conversation anymore. So they know that there's lots of different people to cater to. But it does make me very happy to see that Sega are no longer afraid of these things that they previously got ridiculed for. And it's like I said in the group chat the other day as well. I think Sonic 06 was ahead of its time. In a number of ways, good and bad. In one way, it definitely was a warning sign of what AAA would become. Because, like...
Yeah, the day one patch and, you know, shit like that.
Yeah, like releasing unfinished games, crunching devs, no regard for their well-being and stuff is common practice now. Like, most AAA games are about a Sonic 06 quality these days.
I can agree with that.
That is so true.
The story of Sonic 06 is kind of what people want now, you know? I've heard people say the story's bad, but, like, okay, it's got some moments that don't add up very well, but, like, neither does Sonic Adventure 2, and we love that game. Like, you know, like, Sonic stories have always been a little nonsensical here and there. I think the tightest they've ever been is recently under Ian Flynn. Like, because...
I think Shadow Generations is the best Sonic story we've ever gotten. Like, it's not even close.
It's absolutely the tightest. I think if you ask me my favorite, it would still be, like, Adventure 2, or... I got a lot of love for Unleashed, probably because it is my first of my very own Sonic games. But like,
if I had to look at things from, like, I guess, like, it's all subjective. But I guess if I had to put, like,
I think, like, Shadow Generations objectively knows the most what it wants to do with its story, and does the best overall job with it. There's no localization goofs or anything like that. Like, it is the cleanest, tidiest Sonic story.
Yeah, for sure. Like, because for me, I love Sonic Adventure 1's story a lot. Like, I feel like that game was also pretty ahead of its time in a lot of aspects too. But I think I think to circle back to why like the Mega Drive kids kind of dominated the era, like around the time of like the mid 2000s and stuff, like it dominated the internet conversation, was because they did grow up in a time where Sega did beat Nintendo, you know. So it's hard to like see this thing that you loved and knew it, and you knew it worked because the numbers showed for it, and it was bigger than Nintendo at one point, right? So it's hard to look at this. That's kind of doing this trial and error thing where they're like doing this and that, and like in your head you're like, we know the answer because we, you know, the answer is to go back to like what the Mega Drive and what even some of the early Dreamcast stuff was doing, and just keep doing that kind of stuff. I think that's why the Mega Drive side of things, they were so vocal.
And then I think another like a reason why, like, you know, there's that pitch of the Australian fella who's pitching like a new take on Sonic, and it was going to be like a 2D side scroller, very Rayman Origins inspired. Remember that?
I do remember that.
It got very visceral levels of backlash. It wasn't just like, I don't like this idea and we'll call it a day. People were dicks, but the reason they were such dicks was because it felt totally possible. Like, what the guy was pitching is what so many other companies would have done with Sonic.
Yeah, that's yeah. But I think that's the reason why the Mega Drive kind of crowd, and still a little bit to this day, is still very vocal, is because they grew up in an era where like Sega and Nintendo were pretty much neck and neck in terms of like relevance and sales numbers and stuff like that. And Sega kept like fucking up with the Saturn, bounced back a little bit with the Dreamcast, but wasn't nearly enough. Then they went third party, and then they kept doing trial and error shit and stuff like that. They just kept like fucking up, and the Mega Drive people were getting frustrated because it's just like, we know what we want, we know what the series could benefit from, but no one's listening to us, you know. And it was the same thing with adventure fans as well, where it's like we were going through a bunch of this stuff, and I feel like now with Sonic Mania out, and Superstars to a degree, although Superstars isn't nearly as strong as Mania. I actually replayed both, and I was part of the crowd where it's like, oh, if Superstars came out when Mania came out, then it would have been better. Then it would have been received better. But in my opinion, no. Mania is just a better put together game.
Mania is such a more well crafted, well paced.
It is, yeah.
Like even down to like, I generally prefer like clean artwork to pixel artwork and stuff. But like Mania does such a phenomenal job with its pixel art that it's like it ends up looking better. I think Superstars. Superstars is a weird one because it's by no means anywhere near as egregious as say like Sonic 4 or like some other Sonic games.
God, no.
But it's such an easy punching bag because it was so phenomenally misguided in so many very important areas that it's just kind of like, how did you actually fuck that up though?
Yeah, for me, Mania's impact, and I still hold by this. I know I kind of got some backlash for it, but it like for me, Mania's accolades stemmed a lot from the state that the Sonic series was in at that time, and the fact that it was finally answering a question that a lot of classic fans wanted answered.
Because that's the thing as well, is like those Mega Drive fans hadn't truly been catered to up until that point.
No.
The closest thing they got was classic Sonic in Generations. I suppose you could say like Advance, but like Advance was a long time ago by that point. Like,
well, and also Advance came out like pretty close after Sega went third party, and no one really looked at those as classic games until like people started realizing that the mechanics of Advance 1 were very similar to
but that's the thing is like
games.
by the time like Sonic 4 had rolled around, Advance was quite a way back in the pipeline, and as well as that, obviously Advance 2 and 3 veer away from that sort of classic formula. Like I understand why Mania was as lauded as it was. Superstars does have me wondering if they could just simply make a classic Sonic game and have it be well received, or if they need to kind of do the Mario Wonder thing where they're going to flip the script in a few fun ways. I feel like they need to do that in order to impress anyone with a classic Sonic game now. But, I can kind of understand why people were kind of a little upset that they weren't being catered to. I think we're in a good place where it's like we're getting classic games and modern games side by side.
Yes.
All I'm still going to maintain is if you're going to put 2D levels in the 3D games, put 3D levels in the 2D games. Make it fair. Make it fair.
You know what? Yeah, valid. I'm with you on that. I'm not even
Mania
joking.
2 and have the second acts be these 3D fucking momentum based. People would love that.
That would be cool.
Actually.
Okay.
People would love that. I think.
Oh my gosh, like a 3D momentum-based classic game, I think would still pop off.
Yeah, like,
I think there still
imagine
is
you
a
play
market for that.
Act 1, and it's like a normal ass classic Sonic game. Act 2 is like Sonic Roboblast 2. Like, you know, that I think people would like that. Like that would be well received. I think.
Yeah,
but it's also
I completely with you.
I think I remember. I think it was Some Call Me Johnny mentioned. Like after Sonic Mania, he thought it would be a good idea for them to do like a Dreamcast era Sonic Mania, kind of like a Sonic Mania that.
Yeah.
Shadow Generations is basically that.
I agree. I feel like I'm still holding out hope for a game that has the pretty much the same game feel as Sonic Adventure 1 and Sonic Adventure 2. But I think Shadow Generations, if this is how modern Sonic feels, I am more than okay with it.
Yeah,
I am way more than okay with it.
It's like obviously there's still things I'd like to see, but we can stick with this for a bit if we want. Like,
I think this has a lot of staying power, especially if they expand on the open zone concept and basically just make it like a big interactable hub world, kind of like what we see in Shadow Generations, but have just like either more of them or just a big one that we can, run around.
Make some of the stuff in that hub world mandatory. You know?
Yeah, and like obviously, and like they have the one big loop and everything in the Shadow Generations open zone, which is more than what Frontiers could say.
We still need a physics engine that can handle loop de-loop. Like once we got that down, we're there.
Like I don't know. Like again, and I've been doing some coding, and I don't know how feasible this is, but I feel like because in terms of Superstars, it's running off the Hedgehog engine too. Is that correct?
No, Unity.
Oh, it is running off Unity?
Yes, Unity.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that. But like, I do know that they did use a good bit of the code that was in Mania in Superstars.
Well,
they kind of did like a hodgepodge.
They had the Mania team work on translating everything over to Unity.
Well, that's what I was saying.
So doing like a one. So the Mania team did work on Sonic Superstars. They worked on the engine. They were meant to work on the rest, but then they decided to do Penny's Big Breakaway. Unfortunately for them, that didn't work out. Like I don't think that worked out for either Sega or Evening Star because Penny's Big Breakaway, while it might have been creatively fulfilling, it did flop, leading to some genuinely, unfortunately understandable kind of layoff scenarios. Like usually when companies do these layoffs, it's complete bullshit. In this case, it was just you have to do this.
It's usually like a profits thing, and this time it's like, oh, the game did not do as well as they needed it to.
We can't. Yeah, and they
sucks because Penny's Big Breakaway is a fantastic game in my opinion.
It really is. I'd say it's a lot better than Sonic Superstars as well. But like,
it's just one of those things where sales numbers dictate whether or not you get to keep your staff. And
also,
I think nobody really benefit from Evening Star not working on Sonic
the separation thing.
Sega, Arzest, like I think Arzest did an okay job overall, but like that if Evening Star did it, it would have been realms better than it was. Like Gilly said that ages ago.
Yeah. I genuinely think they would have knocked it out of the park, and I would have loved to have seen what an Evening Star like version of Superstars would have been. Yeah,
like Evening Star doing an all original Sonic game. Imagine just those 4 levels of Sonic Mania, except the whole game is that, and it's like that would be incredible. But like.
And I completely agree that like I guess like them breaking off into their own thing, because it's also a thing with Evening Star. We're introducing a brand new IP in a niche market like 3D platforming, because whether or not people like it or not, 3D platforming is not really bringing in the big bucks, right?
And I think the unfortunate thing is even though, sorry, go on, Frank.
It's a niche market, but even then, like in that niche market, it's already like saturated with other 3D platformers.
The other thing was even they couldn't escape the Sonic shadow, I think, because like even though they weren't marketing it as like, oh, this is a Sonic Mania thing, everyone was thinking it. Like every single piece of content that talked about Penny's Big Breakaway was like, oh, it's from the people of Sonic Mania, and a lot of the videos surrounding it that were made by Sonic fans were like, oh, is this going to be the next Mania? Is this going to be? And it wasn't. It wasn't the next Mania. It was Penny's Big Breakaway, and it was a fantastic game.
Fepard Games is the same way, where they have Spark the Electric Jester, and that's always brought back to Sonic because that's where the origins of it start. So it's like even if they break off, like I think only Freedom Planet was even then. I still don't think Freedom Planet's out of the shadow of Sonic.
Wait,
I think in terms of
Fepard didn't work on Freedom Planet though, did they?
No, Fepard is Spark.
Yeah, it's
Freedom Planet is Galaxy Trail.
I think the thing is, in the case of Spark, I don't know if it's just like maybe it's a budgetary thing, but they've managed to survive like just fine, and I know that.
Yeah,
it's just a singular guy, really. For most of it,
I think Fepard Fepard themselves have even said we don't mind the Sonic comparisons, really. Like,
yeah.
And I think if anything, like the gameplay for 2 and 3 kind of embrace like the fast gameplay that you would get in Sonic.
Also, like
Spark they embraced it a bit more than something than like Penny's Big Breakaway, which is completely different from Sonic.
It's that's what I was going to say.
There's clearly some momentum elements to Penny with like the yo-yo, but it's not Sonic. Whereas like you can play Spark the Electric Jester and go into it with the expectation of this is going to feel like a Sonic game. And be completely right, because it does feel like a Sonic game. I remember playing it, and my sister was like, "Are you playing a Sonic?"
Same thing for Freedom Planet.
Yeah, like those games.
Freedom Planet's the same way, where like you can play it, and it'll feel close enough to Sonic where it feels familiar.
Like muscle memory kind of takes over if you've played Sonic games with either Freedom Planet or Spark the Electric Jester. But in terms of Penny's Big Breakaway, that was a completely different moveset. In fact, Penny's like ground speed is very slow. You need the momentum in order to like
use the
actually
yo-yo.
Keep up. Yeah, you need to master that. And it's super fun speed running, but I actually haven't.
There's a hell of a learning curve too. I've played Penny's Big Breakaway and I thought it was fantastic. Tom mentions like Evening Star were going to work on a classic Sonic game, but long story short, Sega spat in their face so they made their own game. I don't know if that's exactly how it went, because I think a lot of the Evening Star folks have mentioned that they are on good terms with Sega and Sonic Team. So I don't know exactly the details of that, but what I do know is, like, they were going to work on Superstars. They did get the engine down, but then departed to work on Penny's Big Breakaway. I think that's also why T. Lopes didn't do the entire soundtrack for Superstars, was because he was working quite heavily on Penny's Big Breakaway. He was booked up pretty much, which really hurts Sorry, go on.
Who currently works at Evening Star? Was Stealth part? No, Stealth was not part of it, right?
I think Stealth was. I'm not sure.
Stealth was. I think Whitehead was.
Whitehead definitely is.
Whitehead
do you think that? Do you think the whole like Sonic Superstars thing, like them making it? Do you think that kind of fell through because Stealth went and talked about Sonic Origins?
Now, I did wonder that, because like I remember at the time Origins came out, when we were doing Sunset City with the old squad, the conversation was very much, okay, Stealth spoke out, there's no way they're ever going to work with Stealth again. That is just not how the industry works. Like, even if Stealth was completely within his rights to talk out about that and stuff, I mean, I will say, I think it was pretty premature, them speaking out about that. Like, because it was literally release night, and they were already like, yeah, this ain't how we want it to be. It's like, dude. But at the same time, I get it. Like, you want to stand by your work and say this is good stuff, and people immediately noticed a lot of problems with that. But I think the assumption was, there's no way Stealth would ever come back on board, because like once you've said that, like the company's never going to take you back. Fucking miraculously, when Sonic Origins Plus happened, Stealth made a post saying they did get them back in, and that the bridges have been rebuilt and stuff, and everything's fine, basically. So it does seem like Sega and Stealth are on solid terms. So I have no fucking clue how that works, but again, I kind of, if that is the case, that's quite unprecedented for Sega.
If anything, I would say that Stealth and Sega are probably on okay terms, but Sega's keeping Stealth at like an arm's length reach. Maybe. If that makes sense.
I mean, it would make sense to go on.
I kind of looked into it, so no, that would not be a possibility, because Stealth was talking about it when Sonic Origins released, and that was 2022. I found an article, or an archive of an article that dates it all the way back to 2021, from when Zippo was talking about a possible Sonic Mania sequel.
Okay.
So, yeah, no, it doesn't line up.
So wait, what doesn't line up?
Stealth going like talking openly about Origins and that leading to Sega working with RZest instead. It doesn't link up.
Like I guess in terms of like legalities, no, but like
No, but also
Sega also like if I'm so sorry, but I want to get this out. But like if someone who worked on the game directly is also giving the game that just released bad press, the company that hired you is not going to want to hire you back, regardless of like legalities.
That's
of course, he's allowed to talk
However,
about it.
they did bring him back. Like
they did bring him back,
Sonic Origins
and
Plus.
like well, that's what I'm saying is that they're probably keeping him at arm's length now because it's just like, okay, this guy's kind of a wild card, even though he didn't do anything illegal, quote unquote, or he didn't break NDA or whatever.
I do hope that maybe that Sonic Origins Plus was maybe a sign of things to come. I guess we'll see when we'll see. Like, there's no word on when the next classic Sonic thing is coming. But like, I do think that there's probably a chance that we will get another Evening Star Sonic game in the future, given that Sonic Superstars underperformed and Penny's Big Breakaway flopped. Like, I think the chances are they're probably going to recognize
it's a damn shame.
Sega needs Evening Star, and Evening Star would probably benefit from doing another Sonic project just to get their feet on the ground and stuff. But it's just
I still
being able to escape that shadow,
Yeah. I would still hope that Evening Star can still like create original games and probably even build off of Penny's Big Breakaway in some way.
Penny's Big Breakaway was really spectacular. I think there's definitely probably, like Tom Topics is saying in the chat, marketing is very important because, there were very few trailers. And I guess, like, if you're trying to do your mascot platformer, like, I do like the art style of Penny, and I do like the design well enough, but I think if you're going to contend with other mascot platformers, you maybe need a more endearing overall design. I heard a lot of people say that they found the look of the game quite off-putting and stuff, so it's like maybe that's something to kind of
a lot of the colors did clash for me. Like there was a lot of times in Penny's Big Breakaway where like the color saturation and how much like bright shit was on the screen at once really did mess with my vision. And I think that's only because like I do have a history of epileptic seizures whenever I was very young, so maybe that's like part of it. But I mean, I'm also not speaking for everybody because the game does look good. I feel like there's just parts where they could have like definitely toned down like the color palette.
I think my number one piece of advice to anyone trying to make a
put
mascot,
an option.
But I guess my number one piece of advice to anyone trying to make a mascot: make it an animal. People like animals.
That's true. I feel like we've seen a lot of jester mascots lately with not only Spark. But also, like,
Penny's
the amazing,
Penny
as a
Digital
gesture.
Circus,
Amazing Digital Circus, stuff like that. I guess like the clown aesthetic and stuff like that, like even at that time was already pretty played out. So
they should make a game about like a cat rabbit hybrid. They should make a new Klonoa game.
A street performer.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, like a jester. You're looking at it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I haven't played the game myself, but I do own it. It's just I was just looking into it.
Okay, so we should probably quickly go over like the end game of Shadow Generation.
Oh yeah, we should.
Oh right, yeah.
That was a fun tangent.
Podcast, right?
So obviously, like Chaos Island is kind of the last of the main levels, but then you unlock Radical Highway, which we've visited a fair few. I kind of like the fact that we've got a Sonic game that gives you little teasers of the final levels, like throughout the game. But like, the white world turns into Doom Zone, which is fucking awesome. And you've got like the bits of Radical Highway bleeding into that lead up to that Radical Highway level. Black Doom fucking loves Radical Highway.
He loves Radical. You know what the entire game felt like to me? I didn't think this at first, but looking back, those memes that like the caption is subtle foreshadowing, and all it just plays like a millisecond of the end of the video where it's like someone falling on their face or some shit like that, and just that throughout the entire video until you get to the very end. Like that's Black Doom with Radical Highway. And I would love Radical Highway. It's like I think Radical Highway is just so cool. I think it's just so. Which he's like Rail Canyon. He's right though. Like Radical Highway is, but I would have
actually.
I would have
Is nice actually.
I would have loved to have seen. I would have loved to have
We
seen.
must bowl.
I would have loved to have seen.
Nice actually.
Sorry, Trey.
I would have
Sorry, go ahead.
loved. I would have absolutely loved to have seen, like Black Comet or something like that, like some shadow levels. I would
Yeah.
have loved to have seen that in the end.
No,
I'm surprised we didn't get a shadow level,
Highway.
unless I didn't really notice it.
For
There
me,
wasn't
I
one.
think there was not one. I think the closest we got is the Space Colony Arc one because
I
they
think
did
just
have
having
like, the,
Black Doom in the game, I guess, is kind of your Shadow 05 representation. Oh, look, there I go again.
What, like, why is there 5 of them?
Shut the fuck up!
Why are there
Let's
5
just
shadows?
move on. We don't have to stop the
Where's Shadow
conversation
1 through
dead
4?
for this. We can we just have a normal dinner?
But I just
No,
sat
we
down.
need to talk about politics and religion. It's Thanksgiving. Come on.
Yeah, come on. Who'd you vote for? No, I'm kidding. But yeah, no, I thought the in-game stuff. I know there's some people who were like, oh, it's Radical Highway. Like that Radical Highway's like the Green Hill Zone for Shadow, and like saying like shit like that. Which I mean, I can kind of get it. I understand.
It kind
but
of
at the same
literally
time-
is though, because it's the first
It
place
is.
we actually properly played as Shadow.
Yeah, for sure.
It was
Like,
also the representation we got for Sonic Generations on 3DS.
But some folks have also pointed out that some folks have said, why would it be Radical Highway? But other folks have pointed out, this is the place where Shadow's hatred of humanity was at its absolute highest, and when he was at his absolute most
That's true.
lost.
yeah.
And Black Doom is effectively tormenting Shadow the entire time. So it would make sense that he would drop him back in the place where... Like, how do we even know that, like, Maria and Gerald were the real Maria and Gerald and not just fucking Black Doom illusion?
Well, I think they were real because Maria talks back against Black Doom in one of the scenes and actually
Maybe
stands
Black
up
Doom just
for
knows
herself.
how it is, you know?
I mean, I guess, but like, it didn't really work for
All
Black
I'm
Doom
saying
to
is
have them
the
there.
The
I
other
feel like,
characters didn't fade away, is all I'm saying.
I feel like, I mean, it's kind of a case where it's like, why even have them there? Because they actually helped Shadow and motivate him more to save, the timeline and everything
Because
like
it
that.
probably made him very emotional in the process, and Black Doom's just a hater.
I mean, I guess so, but like, Maria ended up like talking Shadow, like bringing him back to reality, and
Black
Shadow
Doom
was like,
wanted to
okay.
make Shadow cry on Sonic's birthday.
Hey, well, I
Black
mean, if
Doom was
Shadow could
working for
cry-
Sonic the entire time.
If Shadow is allowed to cry, then so am I. You know what I'm saying? Like I did sob at the end of
It's
end
the
of the
most
story.
coolest macho thing ever. I'm still not doing
It
it.
is. But I thought overall in terms of like level design, it is funny going back to the final level Radical Highway without the Doom Wings and trying to get S ranks in those stages because
It's
it is
awesome that you can do that,
it's so sick. I'm like, oh my gosh, they really did design everything properly,
though.
and you can still get S ranks. It is a tight window. I will say that.
It's so
It took
tight.
me
It's so
would
freaking
be-
tight.
pause, but no, it was
Pause.
it was very close
It was
a lot
so
of
tight.
times.
Oh, I was so close. It was so tight.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
kill
you
myself.
just got to push through it
I'm
all,
gonna come.
No, please, no.
Come zone.
Welcome
But,
to the cum zone. Radical cum.
Anyways, both the
Come
levels
zone.
Come on, Trey,
are
hurry up.
they're just super fun, even without the Doom Wing power. Like they are still super well designed, and it's actually fun trying to get an S rank on those because it's almost like the 1-2 level in Frontiers, where like the timing window is so precise and so strict.
Oh my
to
god,
get-
Trey, we've been over this.
What
What?
I have an appreciation for is the fact that there are stuff that you would never think to just go look to the side. It's like, oh, there's like a little piece of a platform that's probably way too far. No, just boost, jump. It's like, holy shit, I can actually get there. And
Absolutely.
it's probably faster.
And
And there's
Trey,
like a whole
we've been over this. 1-2 isn't fucking difficult. Just take the lower path.
Okay, well, first of all, that goes completely against
Yeah, it's
the level design
unintuitive.
philosophy.
It's unintuitive.
It's so
designed by
unintuitive.
Mario Kishimoto. Of course, it's unintuitive.
Guys, we've had nearly 2 years to get over this.
Yeah, true.
I'm
You've
just,
had
I'm
nearly
just saying
2 years
that the
to
reason
learn.
why,
2
the reason
years
why,
to learn how to play 1-2.
and I know how to play
It's
it
okay.
now. I know how to play it now.
I know how to play it too. I don't use the exploit, and yes, it
I
is an
don't
exploit,
use
not
the
a
exploit.
not an intended mechanic.
I can't fucking use that
Uh,
exploit. It's difficult. It sucks.
that just sounds like a skill issue, pup.
Yeah, that's straight up.
I
a skill
just
issue on
don't
your
like
part.
using exploits. I'd rather just use the
that
tool I'm
exploit
given.
is
No,
That-
it's a dev intended technique.
Well,
you got to
fuck
learn
the
to use it.
devs in
I
that
saw it in the
case.
speed
Yeah,
stretch
a
video.
little symbol next to it now. Whenever you use the technique, yeah. Which,
I saw it in the speed strats video. It's got to be real.
I saw you in the
It is.
Speed Strats video. You,
I wish
wanna
Frank
be in
was
the
real.
speed strats video.
which Frank was.
I wish Frank was real, and I also wish Dylan was a good friend.
Dylan's not a good friend. Where is Dylan
Yeah.
today?
Yeah, I heard Dylan's a
Alright.
bad friend to pup.
Yeah. I
I
miss
love
Dylan.
that. Despite all the bullshit I give you guys, you'll still believe me when it comes to Dylan.
Oh well, yeah, it's just facts, you know. Like, why wouldn't?
I mean,
why
I've also
wouldn't?
figured out a way to make you believe me on something that wasn't true.
What do you mean?
Remember the other week when I told you, hey, did you know the sections where you can mash the boost button for Sonic Forces, that you could just rotate the analog stick?
That was not
That's
deliberate,
not true.
you fucker. You just made a mistake.
No.
This is.
I wanted to see how who would believe it.
You made me boot up Sonic Forces, but you're being a Schrodinger's douchebag right now.
I don't think that's how. But never mind.
It's
I don't
funny
even-
because it's
That was
actually
not
in
your intended
Frontiers.
feature.
It was actually in
I know it
Frontiers
is
where
in
you could rotate
Frontiers.
it and it would count as mashing it.
I know.
Nah, because you were like 100% convinced.
I was convinced because you were convinced because you made a mistake. But let me tell you something, Frank.
I did not.
Let me tell you something, motherfucker. Real eyes realize real lies.
Real lies, real eyes,
Real guys.
real guys.
Five guys, burgers, and fries.
Five guys. Three guys. The Jonas Brothers.
Do it to him.
No, I didn't do it to him. But yeah, no.
But yeah,
I think
aside from
uh,
Pup's skill issue,
Fuck up.
Yeah. I will say the exploits in Frontiers are way easier to pull off than the Yonky Splunky and Shadow Gens. I still love that it's called that, but
I think that's a wonderful name.
it is a wonderful name.
I'm proud of
'Cause,
the
like,
community when they...
I am ready for them to. I'm ready for people to find more exploits because exploit is fun whenever you can pull it off. It is very finicky, but
I
it is
have
fun.
a request. I have a request. If anybody can find an exploit to skip the part where you have to knock out the 5 enemies to get rid of the shield around Black Doom, like if you can skip that entire area, that'd be very appreciated.
What, for speedrunning's sake? Because I like that.
No,
Wait, are you talking about the what level are you
The
talking about?
mini-boss.
You
He's talking about the
first-
mini-boss at the end of Space Colony Arc Act 1 with Black Doom.
if you can figure out a
where
way
you
to
have
skip
to,
that,
like-
could you let me know?
Let a boy know. Like, can you warn a brother?
Yeah,
Really?
can you tell me about it and show me how to do it?
Warner brother.
How very David Zaslav of you. What are you going to do, cancel a bunch of movies?
But oh man, it is kind of crazy because I feel like a lot of stuff doesn't load in until certain things are triggered, like that little mini boss thing.
Yeah,
because it is a thing where the floor crumbles underneath you, and then you're at the end, pretty much.
it's like you can't really go around it, or you can't really like jump over it
Yeah.
because it'll just lock you into it.
You know
So I'm just
something I
like,
really
if
liked?
anybody could,
What's up? What'd you
How-
really like?
How Rail Canyon continued on for a little bit after that.
I liked that. Yeah, I liked that we kind of got brought into Rail Canyon, and then there was like a couple of more sections where you can do like some like little tiny skips and everything. And
What I
was-
mean is, I like that after the Radical Highway section of that stage, the Rail Canyon bit continues on for a little bit.
well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I wasn't. I wasn't.
I actually found somebody was actually able to skip the whole like like where it transitions back to Rail Canyon, and it just pops back into what Rail Canyon looked like instead of doing like the whole transition. It was really crazy to see.
Huh. So there has to be some sort of like trigger, I guess, in certain aspects where
gotta be
it,
one
it
of-
does.
The more elaborate things a Sonic game has done, like transitioning you to a whole other level.
Yeah,
no.
and you know what's funny? I genuinely thought that was going to be impossible to do on older gen hardware. It was like, oh, maybe if I play on an Xbox One, this would probably like make the game stop for a moment,
Like
load,
chug
and then
load, yeah.
yeah, no, it's just a seamless transition.
Huh?
The game
Very
doesn't run
impressive.
very well on it, and it doesn't look as good. Like I
Yeah.
found myself having a difficult time seeing things in Radical Highway Act 1,
Yeah.
but it's playable. 30 FPS, but it's playable. Sonic Generations, on the other hand, runs at 60 FPS on older gen hardware. It's just the load times are a little longer.
Unfortunately, on the
Which is-
Nintendo Switch, Sonic Generations is still in 30. Missed opportunity.
Really?
I do want to get it on Switch just to see how different the experience is
I got
as
my
compared
review
to
copy
PC.
on Switch. And
I would want to.
It's
Oh,
great
go for it.
just to have Sonic Generations on Switch. That would have been worth the price. Shadow Generations runs very well on Switch, as well.
I want a physical copy of it because, and it's a thing that I have with like certain games. If I genuinely like a game and I know it's on Switch, I want a physical copy. I want some physical version of that game.
I agree.
Yeah, that's
And
fair.
I completely agree.
I did it. I did it with Mania. I did it with Forces, but that's because it was on sale. It was super cheap because it was packed with Super Monkey Ball. I think I got it with Team Sonic Racing. I don't remember. Either that or I just got it. No, wait, hold on. Yeah, I think I have it for Team Sonic Racing.
I
But,
know
the point is that I would get it for games that I genuinely loved, and if it's on a platform where I can have like a physical card of it, I want that. So Sonic X Shadow Generations is one of those games.
Hooray!
Yeah.
Okay, so after Radical Highway comes the Devil Doom boss fight, and Neil
Oh.
Devil Hi Neil Neo
Neil.
Neo Devil Doom fight. What do we think of those fights?
Fantastic, in my opinion. I think in terms of overall scale and everything, I think it takes it definitely puts your skills to the test
Yeah,
in terms
because
of
you
what
have
you've
to
learned.
kind of use all of your Doom
Trying to
powers.
sidestep the obstacles is fucking annoying, but you can get used to it. I'm just like, oh, it's kind of fun, and I'm just like, oh fuck this S rank so much.
Oh, it's a tough
Yeah, no, I
S rank.
still
I
haven't-
still haven't S.
I still haven't gotten an S rank on the final
I-
boss.
It's
only 'cause
especially tough
I
when
got
you get to
it,
like the Doom morph section as well. But what I really liked is that they had such an opportunity to be a dickhead and put bottomless pits there. And there are bottomless pits, but there's also a spring so you can save yourself. Love that.
Yeah, I thought that was nice. Yeah, I thought that was good.
I think it's a really good fight. The second phase is the part where I'm just like, oh fuck this fight and everything. Because then if you mess up and if you're going for S ranks, then you got to start over the entire thing.
That
It's
fair.
just so much time.
Yeah, fair. I think that
but
is.
yeah, I genuinely enjoyed it.
I also love
Yeah.
how when you first start sliding down the water slide, Devil Doom just intimidates you by getting all up in your face.
He's just yelling at you.
He
Yeah,
just fucking
I thought.
screams at
yeah.
you.
I think. Yeah.
In terms of final bosses in Sonic games, like, again, you can be prisoner of the moment really easily. Like, so there's a big part of me that's like, oh, this is probably the best final boss ever.
Yeah.
But then there's another part of me that's like, okay, but the most hype fucking final boss ever, for me, is still probably the Frontiers one. Even though I will say the Black Doom one is altogether a way, way better designed fight than the end.
I
Like,
agree. Yeah.
The end fight in Final Horizon was just so ridiculously over the top that, like, I can't help but just squeal internally every time I see it. Even though, like, design-wise,
And was
it
not
has...
explained well.
Yeah, like, telegraphing wasn't great on that fight. The camera angles were fucking horrendous. But god damn it, it was so fucking cool, though. Like...
Yeah, I
never
can
made it to that
agree.
point.
I can agree that like recency bias is also always going to play a factor in these things. But I think in terms of my overall enjoyment of a boss fight, I think the Shadow Generations final boss, the Devil Doom and Neo Devil Doom, definitely surpass pretty much every other boss fight, like especially mechanically.
I've got a lot
In
of
terms
love
of,
for,
like, yeah.
for Dark Gaia. Just kind
Yeah.
of how layered that fight is. How like you start off as like Chip and you do punching, and then you've got like the little Sonic sections where you're running across the Gaia Golem and aiming for the eyes, and then you've got the bit where you're taking down the shields, whacking his one-eyed snakes, dodging the sperm cells flying through the air. I'm not even
Sure.
joking about that.
Yeah.
They are literally sperm shaped, and it's firing off on all cylinders.
I understand.
There's that. There's the Frontiers finale,
that phrase.
which just is just ridiculous. I just adore it
Yeah.
for that. And then there's this, which is just very well designed across the board, very well paced. It has a lot of the hype moments, you know, like. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I feel like Sonic final bosses fall under one of two categories most of the time, and that's either favoring spectacle or favoring mechanics. Because, like,
this one we
let's
had a
say
nice balance, you know.
we had a nice balance of both, where like the spectacle was still huge, Neo Devil Doom was still like larger than life, and there was a lot of stakes involved, but it was also just a well designed, put together boss fight that took advantage of all your abilities that you've learned throughout the game. I think in terms of like final boss fights that were like mechanically sound, but not really that hype, I think like Sonic Colors.
Yeah, I will
comes to
say
mind.
though, I am so glad we're finally past the era of just recycling that fight.
Yes, I completely
The
agree.
fact that happened
because-
twice was one thing. 3 times is insane.
yeah, insane. And then you had stuff like, funny enough, Sonic Generations, where it was supposed to be all spectacle,
And it was
but
just
the boss
fucking
fight was
terrible.
so but the boss fight was just so boring and
There's
just
neither
not
spectacle
fun.
or mechanic with that one.
Yeah, it's just
fucking
bad.
shit.
There's nothing really to chew on with the final boss of Sonic Generations. Again, like I wish they would have fixed the fucking voice lines saying like that looks like a homing shot like every
Yeah.
Oh
like,
god, I got
3
so
seconds.
annoyed of that.
It still happens. I'm like, y'all were re-recording lines and you still felt the need to like keep that in. Like, why? Like, why would you do
That
that?
looks like a homing shot. Shut the fuck up.
It's like, shut up,
Yeah,
shut
you
up.
are not helping. Like, they have the audacity to be like, oh, we're gonna fight this boss together, and all they do is state the fucking obvious.
Yeah. And it's after you already got hit by the supposed homing shot that they're like, oh, well, that looks like a homing shot. It's like,
Yeah.
shut up.
You
Time Eater
fucking
was
think?
just
It's like, shut up.
a total failure on pretty much all counts. I remember with like the base end fight from base generations just being like, well, at least it's not the Egg Wisp. I mean,
Yeah.
I genuinely think that's a fun fight, but it's just not right, you know? You don't do that.
Yeah. Like, it's so hard to make Supersonic boring. It is so hard, and they did it with Sonic Generations, the OG, like
Yeah,
Time
and
Eater
also
fight.
the fact they didn't fix Supersonic in gameplay either. Like, he's still,
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
still a 1 second wonder. He still drops you
Yeah.
off in bottomless pits, and
Yep.
he still fucking sucks. Like,
No, I agree. Like again, like they seemed more concerned with preserving the gameplay aspect, but not like the story aspect, I guess. Which is so bizarre because if you have the opportunity to like change some stuff, then why not take that opportunity to make some of the gameplay elements a little
That
bit more
said-
cohesive and better?
that
So-
said, the question you could ask is, would you rather they focused up on the Sonic Generations portion and made it the best possible Sonic Generations, or that they did the Shadow Generation thing? And I'm not gonna lie, I'll take the Shadow. Like,
I'll take the shadow.
Yeah.
I mean, I've already said before, and I know I got some backlash, but I honestly wish this wasn't solely attached to a Sonic Generations quote unquote remaster or
I think
like
that's what a lot of
re-release.
people have said so far.
that's
Like,
what
that
one
it would have been better if it
review
was
got
a-
lambasted for. And
I
don't
Yeah,
that's the thing. I'm
undeservingly
never,
so.
like I'm never gonna dock the game for having a remaster of a good game attached to this, right? Because that seems stupid. Because that's what it's always been marketed as. But I wish the entire team didn't have to worry about re-recording lines or even doing some animation tweaks and stuff to Sonic Generations and just focused their entire resources on either making new assets for the levels and expanding Shadow Generations to be
that said,
a sequel,
Like,
basically. This
I
Sonic
don't think
Generations stuff.
Shadow Generations was at all the little workload that regular Generations would have gotten.
No, it wasn't harmed.
At the same
like,
time,
yeah.
like, I am of the belief that when you take the two halves and put them together, you get something that goes beyond either half. And Sonic Sonic X Shadow Generations, beyond just Sonic Generations and Shadow Generations, is probably one of the best packages you can get in the Sonic
Oh, that's fair.
franchise.
Yeah.
Like, if you play this for the first time and it's brand new, like, you're getting an incredible...
You have a lot of game.
Like,
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm speaking for personal experience. I've already put over 20 hours into the Shadow Generations portion alone, right? So, like, you have a lot of game to cover. And in my opinion, this game strikes a great balance between the game itself being relatively big with, like, the open zone and stuff like that, but also just endlessly replayable. I feel like that's the biggest thing.
A lot of, in the 2010s, a lot of Sonic games really kind of relied on the replay value for you to get your money. Because the game could be beat in, like, a couple of hours or so. Like, Generations is not as short as I remembered it being, but it's not, like, a long game by any stretch.
No, absolutely not.
However, Generations thrived on replay value. Like, Sonic Forces, on the other hand, very short game, shorter than Generations, less replay value because the levels aren't anywhere near as good. Shadow Generations, it's about 3 and a bit hours, I'd say. Like, generally.
3.5 hours comfortably.
3.5 hours. Yeah. But there's something this game does that I adore that original Generations didn't. And I love this loop here of filling out the collection room. Like, filling out the collection room in Sonic Generations was already pretty cool, because, like, you know, okay, we're getting to replay these awesome levels again, and we're going to hunt for some red star rings. That's great. Shadow Generations, though, you've got that layer of replay the level, find the correct token, and then find the treasure chest in the hub world, and just the gameplay loop of filling out that collection room is so much fun, and can last you, like, 20 or so hours.
Yeah. Like, that's the thing, is that it could still be technically, I guess, like, labeled as quote unquote padding, but in my opinion, that's how you do it. You make it to where you have incentive to explore the world with these chests, with these collectibles, and also have the levels themselves be fun. That way you actually want to S rank them. You actually want to beat your times.
Another
that
thing
way,
that the game does that gives it more longevity than the original gen is that some of these tokens are in the challenge gates, and then, of course, at the end of the game, you get the little Doom World thing, where it offers you a chance to go back to Doom Zone, and when you do that, it not only activates hard mode challenge gates, which give you more to fucking play with, all of the little race challenges around the open zone, such as, like, you know, collect a certain amount of rings in a certain amount of time, they all bump up to hard mode as well. And I was so impressed by that, because, like, Spider-Man 2, for example, Marvel Spider-Man 2, in the third act of the game, New York is taken over by the symbiotes, and it's in, like, a new state, effectively. And it was awesome, but you can't toggle that back on and off. In fact, you couldn't even fucking change the weather in Marvel Spider-Man 2 until the fucking patch came out 6 months later. Shadow Generations straight up gives us a chance to reactivate the Doom state, which I didn't think they'd do, and gives you, like, hard mode bosses.
Yeah, it gives you more
post-game content, you know, like,
and also some of the collectibles are exclusively in the Doomgate like version of the level.
Are any of the nuts and bolts exclusive?
I'd say look into it just in case.
Holy shit!
I don't think it would hurt. I don't think so, because I think, like, there is a video where you go through all 80 of the bolts, but I did find some bolts while I was in the Doom state of the world. Regardless, though, that's where you find the last pages of Gerald Robotnik's page is in the is in that version.
I've been wondering where the fuck that is.
Yeah, so you find the last 2 pages in the Doom state, and you also find a lot of the chests in the Radical Highway fragments in the air and stuff like that too.
Doom state, any state where Kamala wins, then. I'm joking.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
Oh my god.
I'm joking.
Stop.
If I were voting, I would vote for Kamala too, okay?
Look, I know we've been hurting for finances, but we can't just start grifting. Jesus, like, what are we doing? Like, Jesus Christ.
Fucking liberals.
Yeah. But yeah, no. So that's the thing, is that it gives you incentive to explore the world. It also explore the hard, like, the Doom state, you know, world and stuff like that too, because of the challenge gates, like you mentioned, and stuff like that. The only thing I don't like about the Doom state thing is that the red that they chose can be a little bit, like, little bit too much for my eyes. But I think that's again just because I am relatively photosensitive to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, red's
But
my
like,
favorite
I think
color,
some
so I don't
accessibility.
mind. Like, yeah, accessibility.
Some
is,
accessibility options would be nice. Maybe something that's that would.
I
make
think
it
there
a
is like
little
a
less
colorblind
intense.
option and stuff like that. But like, I wish like because for me, anytime I switch between the Doom State version and then the regular version, the white that comes back is like really blinding because I've been so used to looking at red,
which
and it's like,
between
oh
the-
shit,
Which between the Doom State and the
Doom, yeah, the Doom State and
the grift continues.
God,
But
Stop.
this is where we big Sonic.
If you grift, I leave.
Are you not enjoying
Yeah.
the grift pup arc?
I would rather enjoy the
No,
Griffin
not really.
pop art.
Eh.
But yeah, like
no. Well,
but-
another thing I really
Okay, if it was the
appreciate-
Griffin arc, I would accept it.
Another thing I really appreciate though is like in Final Horizon, in the second half, they mention like there's been an earthquake and the end has corrupted the island, even the cocoa, and you have to completely.
As someone who lives in California, I identify with that.
Well, you
Yeah.
have to completely take their word for it. Like all it is like it looks no different at all. And
yeah,
but then Shadow Generations has the corrupted bit, and it actually looks different. But another thing
Yeah.
is, I always thought like Final Horizon would have benefit from having the end looming in the sky the entire time. This has
Yeah.
that biblically accurate angel motherfucker in. So it really does feel like they're capitalizing on some bits of missed potential from Sonic Frontiers with this open zone. So hell
Yeah.
yeah.
I completely agree. Honestly, in my opinion, I feel like the best way they could have mitigated the whole like all red aesthetic of the Doom Zone thing is just have the Doom portion of it have a little bit of a tint in red, but take place at night. You know, like
Yeah,
take
or
place
just
at like a nighttime.
accessibility options. Because I personally,
Yeah, again, yeah, like, but I do like that it looks different. I do like how like the music changes to reflect that,
and
and
it's Black
also
Doom's theme as well.
it is also the music is fucking fantastic. I don't know if we've talked about that. I don't know if we talked about that last week, but
I
like,
think we
I
did. My
Yeah.
verdict on the music was I think it's good. It's far from my favorite Sonic soundtrack, but like
fair.
like because I think it just leans into the dubstep too much for my. I don't think it's objectively bad or anything, but I think dubstep is quite a date. Like I immediately associate it with the 20.
Yeah,
And like it leans a little too heavily into that. I would also prefer if we had like real drum kits on bits like the Space Colony arc rather than the drum machines, because
Yeah.
it just hits harder.
right.
And but
Which I mean,
I gotta say,
Sega, if you need drums, I can be your guy.
yeah,
you know
stop
what I'm
putting
saying?
drummers out of work, man. But
Yeah.
but also okay, so Sonic Symphony. I went to the fucking Sonic Symphony in September and had a whale of a time. And they played a new version of Oh Hail Shadow there. Little did I fucking know that we were being shown the final boss theme for Shadow Generations. And I was just amazed when I heard it in Sonic X Shadow Generations. And like, yeah, I really like this new version of Oh Hail Shadow.
Yeah, I agree that like I feel like if you're able to recreate tracks, that was the best way that they could have done that one in particular.
Yeah,
I
same
don't
goes
mind.
For,
Yeah.
Same goes for What I'm Made Of being like, rather than a full-on remix or whatever, it's just an updated version of the original stuff.
They definitely they so like I know the term remix has a different implication, but they definitely like I guess took that project and just remixed / remastered it at
Sure.
the core. And
like the drum beat,
you know,
for example, on the chorus is much more driving on the new.
yeah, I think it sounds phenomenal. And again, like I think the only two tracks that kind of put me off is Chaos Island Act 1, because that kind of got memed whenever it was first revealed like a couple months back. I don't hate the track. I think a lot of it just again I think it's the same thing with you where it just sounds a little corny.
I
I'm
did
like,
flip
okay,
it over to Find Your Flame for Act 1 of Chaos Island, and it is epic.
Mhm.
It is so fucking epic. It is the most epic thing
yeah.
since the Ben Shapiro rapping. No,
Oh my god.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop.
I'm literally gonna throw myself off a building, dude. This is crazy.
I'm gonna genuinely stop.
But yeah, no,
Uh,
but the only other one is Act 2 of Space Colony Arc also kind of threw me off because the dun dun da 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 dun, it's like a very like 8 or 16-bit like sounding like
It felt very
synthesizer that does
classic
the
Sonic coded. Like
it did, which makes me think that maybe there was like talks of them doing like a classic element in this side of the
I
game,
think
and then they
that's
just
kind of what
opted
that
for 2D.
was. Like,
Yeah,
because I know that they mentioned in like the IGN Q&A, the 2D stages were there as like the Sonic Generations homage, effectively.
fair enough. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Even though I'm still not gonna shut up about it until they pull the trigger on a fully 3D Sonic. But like, these were good stages. I did like them. I just want them to do.
Yeah,
Just get
I
on
think
with it. Shit or
I
get
think
off
how
the
they like we mentioned last week. I feel like them doing Act 1 being fully 3D and then Act 2 being fully 2D like was the best move that they could have made here. And I still go back and replay some of the 2D levels, and I do like. I think you mentioned it last week too. How like the camera is more so like over the shoulder
It's
in
more
the 2D
dynamic
sections.
as well. Like it
Rather,
moves around
yeah,
and stuff. But I'm just like, again, I'm at the point where it's like, unless you're gonna put 3D levels in the 2D games, stop putting 2D levels in the 3D games.
yep. No, I
Make
agree.
it fair.
And
Stop telling us that your 2D fan base is more important. Like, stop it.
but yeah, I thought overall like the music selection was great, and it's also a thing too where it's like if you don't like the music, you can just change it. There's a jukebox
Yeah.
option where you can just change the music of the stage, and Bob's your uncle, you know, whatever that saying means. But yeah,
So-
there you go.
The only time you cannot change the music is if you're doing the time attack stuff because it's in a different option.
That
Or
and
a
I
different
think
menu.
the White World doesn't offer you
Like
any kind of jukebox option.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
little bit disappointing because like even though I love like the I think it's like a All Hail Shadow
Yeah.
and like motif and stuff like that with the orchestra in the White World, I think it was very well put together, and the Doom state of things, the Doom Zone also having Black Doom's theme orchestrated, like I thought those were nice touches, but I do wish they would have taken one more page from Frontier's book and add like a jukebox thing in the open world itself because like I feel like that would be it's just fun. Again, it doesn't really
that never and it never loops.
Yeah, because
yeah.
I spend the majority of my gameplay time in the hub world. It's my favorite part of the game.
Oh, same here, yeah.
Because I just like being able to just fucking fuck about. Like that's like, just give me some powers and let me dick around, and I'll be happy. But okay, there's one thing I wanted to quickly talk about, and this relates back to Sonic Generations as well. I don't know if I mentioned this previously, but remember in 2011 when you got the Sonic Boom event, where Crush 40 and Cash Cash debuted their cover of Sonic Boom, and I thought, what could be a better way to play out Sonic Generations than that? That's the perfect vocal track for that game, because it's a classic Sonic anthem, but it's got, Crush 40 of the Dreamcast era, Cash Cash of the modern era. It's kind of like all these eras of Sonic music come together in one track. Perfect way to play out the game. But never happened. It was relegated to the little Sonic CD album. And I thought, that's just such a waste of that, Now, Shadow Generations has a really sad, somber ending. And then we cut to credits. It's like,
Yeah.
all right. We probably could have had a feelsy song here. I wonder, did we maybe have a feelsy song that played exclusively at the end of Dark Beginnings that maybe could have gotten the spotlight here? That would have been such a great way to
I see
play
what
out
you
that
mean.
emotional ending. And then have the medley. I like these medleys. Have the medley play in the second half of the credits.
Yeah, because the credits go on for a while. There's enough time to
I'll never
throw it in.
forget how Sonic Superstars had credits that lasted like 15 minutes, and they had an end credits medley where they used such criminally short parts of the tracks, and it's just like, you could have used a few more fucking seconds of that track.
Or at least it wasn't like a Sonic Colors Ultimate thing where like after a little while the music just stops altogether.
Dude, the initial release Colors Ultimate was the most unsettling thing, because you get to the part of the credits where it's no longer even credits, it is just disclaimers, and it's like, should I even be here?
Yeah, like did I mess up something? Like
Yeah,
why am
it's
I
like-
looking at this? Yeah.
It's like Apex Fontworks is a time-worn institution. Please do not download these fonts without consent. Sega have commissioned these. It's like, what?
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, there's also like the whole like Godot engine thing where they had to like specify that they did use the
They had
Godot
to,
engine.
yeah, they forgot to credit them the first time.
They forgot to credit them.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I completely agree with Zach the Robot here in the comments. Without You should have been the ending theme of this game. And I know that it was made for Dark Beginnings and it's perfect there. It would have been perfect here too.
Yeah.
And I
think
I feel like they maybe could have used that leitmotif for Shadow and Maria's scenes. I do love how we've got the All Hail Shadow leitmotif carrying throughout the entire game, and then it, builds up to the finale where they're actually using that symphonic version of it. That's excellent. I wish we could have had a bit of Without You in this soundtrack. And when the fuck are they going to release that as well? I want to hear that song. Like
that. Yeah. I mean, I don't. It's just in due time at this point. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. No. I just like the music in this game. I think it's great. I think they did a great job. They could have done more, but like that's kind of like more so just like that's more nitpicky and more subjective.
I do wish we'd used more of the Chaos Island movements in the Chaos Island tracks. The second act one starts off with the sixth movement, and that's my favorite of the movements. But then it goes back to the second movement, and I was like, oh, okay. And it sounds very Sonic Superstars coded, like the Toriana tracks from Sonic Superstars.
Yeah, like I agree. Like again, nothing bad. I think the Chaos Island tracks are still like the weaker parts of the soundtrack.
I tell you what, I really warmed up to Rail Canyon Act 2's one. Like I don't know if Frank, I don't know if you changed your mind. I ended up liking that track
on
Rail
Canyon. It's kind of there for me. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I still don't think it sounds very. It doesn't sound amazing. It's just kind of there.
Fair. I love Rail Canyon Act 1. Like that was.
I don't dislike Act 2 as much as I used to. I kind of just got over it. Act 1's pretty good.
Act 1 is so June code. Like I love it.
I will say Chaos Island Act 1, still hate it.
I don't love it.
Still think it sounds like
we were just talking about that. I don't hate it, but I think it is a thing where a lot of like the choices, and someone like made a good point of like, oh, well, they were probably trying to like blend in the textural styles of like the cyberspace stages into this as well. And in my opinion, it's like, okay, I can, but the cyberspace stages weren't dubstep. They were more drum and bass coded. They were more like more industrial in some aspects, but also just very like drum and bass, especially with the Amen break and
more kind of like Marshmallow Avicii kind of coded, whereas this was more Skrillex coded, I guess.
Yeah, which again, like Skrillex has made a name for himself doing that, and
in the fucking 2010s.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, not to kind of rush things, but I want to head out in a few minutes.
Yeah, Sonic Rush things.
All right, let's do super chat. I'm kind of ready to.
I should.
I'm kind of ready to eat.
I'm sorry. It's just...
No, it's okay.
Oh,
you should be sorry. Actually,
the Fortnite calls me because literally there's an event happening in like a few minutes.
The Fortnite calls me is insane.
Oh, you're gonna be playing with Lit.
You made it sound like it was such an important, like, family matter, and you're just like, guys, no, we have to leave so that I can go play Fortnite.
Are you gonna be playing with your cool new friend Lit?
I think I might just be doing this solo.
Dude, I've only been playing the Fortnite Festival on my PC. I do want to play with y'all.
They're doing like a remix thing in about 15 minutes, but apparently I have to get in like in the next 5. I was like, what? That's fucking weird.
I told you Lit would abandon you. I'm the only one who won't.
I'm the only
one. I love just being
at least
toxic for no reason.
Something calls to me. Plays Fortnite.
Yeah. Yeah, Shadows thing. Like he's next to like that Doom, like whatever.
I should have said it just like that. Fuck. Okay. Well, there's my missed opportunity.
It's like something calls to me.
It's okay. It's a Sonic Generations podcast. Gonna be some. On a whole, it's good.
It's true.
Okay. So
I'll be sure to rewrite it the next time around.
We are gonna kind of read through these super chats nice and quick. Try not to fuck around. Inable.
Yeah.
That is not possible, but we'll see.
It's possible.
We'll see.
Everyone will get their acknowledgement. And gosh, people have been generous today as well.
I do see that. Thank you, everyone. And also, can we get a round of applause for my internet not fucking up?
No, Trey.
Oh,
That's the
don't
bare
jinx
minimum.
it.
That's
Don't jinx it.
I would just not boo it. You know.
I knocked on some wood. It's fine.
Round of applause for Trey not bringing us into a fucking tour. There we go.
Wait, what's the difference between golf clap and applause? What's applause? Oh, okay.
You have
Echo.
Huh?
You have Discord Nitro.
Yes.
That'll be why you're able to use that, because we can't use that. I can't.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can't use.
Maybe Frank.
You
can.
can't use that.
Frank, do you have Discord?
No, I don't have this. I don't pay for Discord Nitro.
See, Frank's not a wealthy Hollywood elite.
Look, I'm sorry that I'm just so much more successful than y'all, but like y'all gotta catch up. All right.
I'm just gonna leave then. You know what? I can't take all this bragging
Trey,
from Trey.
look what you
Like
did
he's been
there.
doing this
Look
for.
what
No.
you fucking did.
He's
I've
been
never.
doing
I
this for
have not
hours.
done this.
You have to
No.
flex your wealth on him. Like he is in a position where things are out of his control, and he's really fucking trying.
Okay. I don't know what else to tell you.
Oh wow.
Womp womp. I guess. No, I'm kidding.
All right, so the super
God
chat
damn.
has been cut off now. We will read the ones that we've got. Okay, so starting off, Borger. Since stupid fucking Dylan's not here because he's too busy fingering his butthole, we've got. Fuck's sake. We got...
Jesus Christ! First of all, he doesn't have one. How can he do that?
Yeah, you're right. I'm lying. So we got Mr. Krabs, with the $1.99 US. Wario time Friday, and Trey, you pick Wario.
Why do I pick? Oh wait, hold on. You're picking for me. Why do I pick Wario?
Wario time Friday. Don't ask.
Okay, but there you go.
Franken, you're up. Franken.
Oh, 3Monic with the $5 US. Song of the week: "Goodbye Eggman" by Keiko Kimura. Fuck, hope, and Godspeed.
Say no to
What?
hope, I guess.
Say no to hope.
Yeah. Fuck.
I don't know.
You are hopeless.
Hey.
KB with $1.99 US. We always end up talking to each other. KB, I hope you're doing well. Thank you again.
Good morning,
I
baby.
beat Shadow. I beat Shadow Gens last night. It was peak. It is peak. I will say
It was
that.
fucking peak as fuck.
It was peak.
Borger. Mr. Krabs sends $4.99 US. We get to see Gerald 2 sons in the journal, which means one of them is Eggman's father/uncle, and also Gerald and Maria being dead makes things tragic. Yeah, no, definitely. And this game is basically the custody battle of Shadow the Hedgehog when you think about it.
It is true.
Pretty
No.
much.
I have him on the weekends. And Gerald's like, nah.
On the weekends. Look, Shadow, I gave you wings and a surfboard. What did that prick give you?
Just a lifelong of drama. That's it.
A dead sister.
Anyways, okay, Franken, you're up with KB.
KB with the $9.99 US. Ian did want to flesh out those generation stories for the remaster, such as explaining how Eggman got out of white space, but the idea got shut down since Sega wanted to base Gens' story to stay the same.
That'll do it. That makes sense.
Yeah. That's what I expected, you know.
To
where
be
it's
fair,
like,
we
of course,
don't really need an explanation for that, do we? It's Eggman. Of course he's got to get out. Like,
yeah. I think it would have been kind of cool just to see it, I guess. Like, be like, okay, like that makes sense, and that's it. You know?
my
Like,
favorite thing about Eggman is just you see him and he's like, "Oh, what's he up to this week?" You know,
it's yeah, you could put him under like a massive robot, and like any other person would be dead, but Eggman somehow just like survives, and it's like, all right, dude.
My buddy Sam, who's not really a Sonic fan, watches like Sonic X with me and Dom, and every time Robotnik is on screen, Sam's like, "Oh, what's he at this week? What's the big silly doing this time?" And it's just like, "Yep, that's basically what he's all about." And he's the one that named him Bertram. So yeah. Anyway.
Oh, perfect.
Right.
I think it's my turn. Lord with
Lord.
€2. Thank
There
you.
go.
Rings are Honey Nut Cheerios.
A delicious festive morning.
You know what? The B ring theory is, making a little bit more sense now. What if Honey Nut Cheerios?
Sense. You guys are just dumb.
What if rings were just always Honey Nut Cheerios? Is that the reason why you don't really see them eat much
meals? Do you
meals?
have hula hoops in America? As in, like the chip hula hoops.
Oh no, not the chip.
Okay, so we got a potato chip called hula hoops, and they are hula hoop shaped and stuff. I always used to think rings were literally that, so there'd be a salty treat. But anyways, burger. That's me. Hey B, good morning with the $9.99 US. According to Ian, Sega also considers the special stages as only a game element. Man, what a missed opportunity not linking that to cyberspace.
I agree. Like, again, it seems weird that they're kind of picking and choosing which parts of the game are game elements and which parts are part of the world.
Well, if you want us to get engrossed, make it all canon.
Yeah. And, in my opinion, it's just choose a little bit better in terms of what things, because in my opinion, the rails in the sky, that's a game element. I don't need a story explanation for that, but they gave me a story explanation for that, So
or the heads-up display.
Yeah,
Right, we'll move on to the next one. So Franken, you're up, Borger.
Let's see.
No, not let's see, KB.
No. I said let's see.
I know.
I'm not going to say
I'm
lit.
being a bash.
Okay, yeah.
I'm being a bash.
KB with the $9.99 US. Wow, this really is Sonato Gens, and not long after the Sonic X Knuckles moments in Frontiers. Simply amazing.
They gotta make Sonic X Knuckles Frontiers. Fix Knuckles.
People got super mad at me for calling Sonic X Shadow Generations Sonato Generations. Dude, it's a funny thing.
I mean,
funny.
and plus there's an hour-long makeout session in this game between Sonic and Shadow. You can't miss it. Yeah, it's a PlayStation.
That's why it was rated T.
I think there's a lot of low-lying homophobia involved. That's why they get so irrationally angry.
Yeah, again, they're terrified of ceilings and kitchens and living rooms and stuff like that. So they're afraid of homes.
I get it. That's amazing. No, you don't need to explain it. I get it.
They're afraid of homes, pup. They're afraid of conventional houses in suburbia.
That was really good.
Anyways,
okay.
Thank you. All right. David Crespo with $1.99 Thank you. Shad Gens makes me want a Forces remake.
See, that's worse. Calling it Shad Gens is worse. If you know, you know.
Shad Gen. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Thank you, David.
And in my opinion, I call the Sonic Generations OG Gens, and then this re-release X Gens.
If you
Sonic
if you want
Gens,
kind of like a sorry, go on.
I just go Sonic Gens, Shadow Gens, and then the remaster.
That's it.
If you want,
in my opinion, if you do want the same type of experience that this kind of gave you, then go to Sonic Forces Overclocked.
Yeah, there we
go. It's actually phenomenal. I recently got it booted up. I had to re-download it a couple times because it is a thing where it's if your Wi-Fi or whatever connection, if your internet connection gets severed at all, then some of the files get kind of corrupted and don't load all the way. But once I got it all working, it worked flawlessly, and it is a great time. And if you already have Forces, it's free, and
it's terrific.
Just support the. It's amazing, and it's funny because I technically have a very, very tiny portion of the soundtrack in that game that I helped work on, which is funny.
That's awesome. You want to brag some more?
I'm not bragging. This was okay. Literally. I just
worked on Sonic Forces Overclocked. Did you?
Pretty much just 2 songs, and I only
it's only 2 songs.
I only mixed vocals. It wasn't even my own
vocals on the
I'm literally
Forces Overclocked soundtrack.
Oh my god, this is killing me. Anyways,
so blessed.
It's a great.
Remember when you said no shenanigans?
Shut up.
It's a great expansion. I call it more of an expansion because it goes past just a normal mod, even though that's what it technically is.
Speaking of expansion, I wonder how Dylan's doing.
Why would expansion remind you of Dylan?
We move.
Anyways.
And I run.
Borker. Okay. Mr. Krabs sends $1.99. Trey. They made the balls bigger. Friday, November 1st, 2024.
Okay. All right, dude. Whatever. All right, Frank, go on. Let's move on from that. Franken.
Toy Lord with the €2.
That's right.
Correct.
Okay. I love Sonic being a goofy jerk in Shadow games.
I still think my favorite
I don't know how
Sonado moment in is in Shadow 05, where Sonic is just like, "Well, party's getting started." Tanner Rocker runs off, and Shadow just pauses for a second. Get back here.
Mhm. It's like, get back here.
I just love the pause. Like he's just taken a moment to process what's just happened. Get back here.
That's funny. All right. Mr. Terry Chaos with 5, is that pounds?
Mhm.
Okay. With £5, thank you again. The next game needs both Sonic and Shadow playable. Imagine they go like Spider-Man 2 when both Peter and Miles are in the action. Could go hard. I completely agree that I want them to essentially like make Sonic Adventure 3 without it being Sonic Adventure 3, where it's like you have a true hero and dark story,
call
almost
it-
like kind of like what
We'll call it. You've had Sonic X Shadow Generations. Now here's Sonic X Shadow, the next one.
Sonic X Shadow Adventure.
This one's new.
But yeah, but I would like, because like I think Pup made a good point of like looking at the Sonic Generations and Shadow Generations as the hero and dark side story of the same game. That's a better way to look at it. And I want them to kind of like go further in that direction, you know, and one cohesive package. Again, Sonic and Shadow Generations is as cohesive as it can be with a re-release, right? But like I want them to like build the game from the ground up with that idea in mind. That would be sick. And now it's like possible. Like now it's a thing where it's like that could happen, and that's awesome.
I want to see them interact for a long period of time as well. Really explore their little dynamic.
Hey, guys, I hate to do this to you,
It's
but
okay.
I gotta peace out early.
Anything you want to
Yeah.
promote before you go?
I'm streaming at twitch.tv/gotta-be-frank.
Hell yeah.
I'll be live in a couple moments.
Everybody go see him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, you guys are awesome. Thank you.
Take it easy, sweetheart.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Farewell. Now that he's gone,
Ah.
we can kiss. We
Yeah.
can kiss
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, finally,
Yeah.
fuck that guy, am I right? Fucking
Stupid. Motherfuckers. Stop it, Cyrus.
Oh, sorry. All right.
Okay. Border. Is it me? It's me. Twilight
Yeah, it's you.
to a Lord sends €5. Shadow Gen's level mods are gonna be awesome. I suspect Shadow 1, I don't know what that game is, I think you mean Shadow 5, and Generations 1 are gonna get almost all their levels brought across. You mean Sonic Generation, right? Well, Lord.
So, yeah, no, I think, and they were able to make the mod loader compatible with Sonic X Shadow Generations like very quickly. I know Dylan talked about it a little bit, but like I also have like I think it's called the Hedge Mod loader or something like that.
Manager.
Hedge Mod Manager, and yeah, I used it for Overclocked and it works flawlessly. So now that Shadow Generations is part of that, now it's just a matter of time before we see, you know, I'm gonna indulge here, but Shadow 05 levels. I really think that was a missed opportunity. They should have had more of Shadow's original game in here represented. But again, the package that we got, not complaining at all. It's just something that I wish could have been seen. But now it's possible through modding. Sucks for console players, and I do feel for them because I was in y'all's shoes at one point. But yeah, I'm excited for what the modding community can do with this. Borger. Is it my turn?
Mhm.
Joe Madre with $5. Thank you. This egg carrier is just like the Wing Fortress. Tails, little bro, let's go on a sky chase to reach it in time.
It's silly, isn't it?
That's the thing that I keep telling people. It's not the references. It's just that no one talks like this. Like no one has conversations like this, you know? But like I think when Ian Flynn is just given a direction and more so less a clean slate in terms of a story, he pops off. He does great. I think it's whenever he's trying to like
I mean,
um
it's obviously an exaggeration. Like that's
it
the,
is.
the fucking joke. Like
it is.
I laughed. I don't think Ian's writing's actually like that, but I laughed.
Nah, I think it only got like for me it only got that bad with like some of like the Easter egg kind of stuff that you would find in Frontiers, and that is more
Yeah,
so
like
just
idle
Easter
dialogue
egg.
where it's like,
flavor,
oh wow, look at this grass.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Green Hill. It's like it's grass, dude. Like
it's like man, this reminds me of it's like so many balloons. They must have drifted in from Spagonia. That one's still my favorite because of
so
just how
dumb.
absurd. In my opinion, I wish he just would have said like, "There's a lot of balloons." That reminds me, I need to go visit, Professor Pickle and whatever.
Yeah,
I think that would have
that's
been
a lot of balloons. I fucking love balloons. Makes me think of Rouge.
okay. Let's get going.
Lord. That's but Lord,
That is
€2. Sonic Shadow Knuckles would be a stable thruple. Wait, why is it still called a thruple and not a trio?
Yeah, it's a trio.
A triad.
A triad. Poor Silver.
Yeah, Silver deserves his flap. I
Yeah.
like that the ending cutscene of Generations, Shadow is actually just chilling out with Blaze and Silver. I like the idea that those three would get along.
I hope that Silver and Blaze can eventually get their flowers because I feel like especially in Blaze's case, in my opinion, like, she deserves something a little bit more substantial.
I tell you what, I've said I kind of like the idea that Shadow and Sonic kind of have a bit of a friendship, but I also don't hate the idea that Sonic is the only one of the group that Shadow doesn't get along with.
Yeah, right.
Like, he clearly has some respect for Tails. Like,
of course.
Also, in the Tails Tube thing, Sonic, drop him a fucking DM, dude. Like,
yeah, right.
Send him a DM and just be like, yo, sorry, I didn't realize you had a bad experience with Starfish. Like, that wasn't cool. Like, Sonic did not have to do him like that. Although, getting an origin story for King Boom Boo was cool. So...
It was. We haven't mentioned the Tails Tube thing, but like someone had a cool theory on Twitter that kind of made me retract like the initial like snarkiness of my reply to them at first, where they were like, "Why?" Well, they were like, "Why is King Boom Boo human?" And I was like, "Well, what else could he have been?" But then they like explained that like it could have been theoretically remnants of the Echidna tribe and like old ancients like in the Echidna tribe that just like realm the halls of like their past pretty much. And I was like, oh, okay, that actually would have been kind of cool, but they didn't go in that direction. But like,
just glad that we're finally getting humans that aren't in the Whipple lineage.
we need more human representation that isn't stupid, please. Let's keep going.
Or a cop.
Or a cop, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the difference now? All right. KB with $9.99. Thank you, KB. Ian said he didn't intend for the Sonic and Knuckles moments to be romantic, but I do wonder if the animators knew what they were doing. I mean, see, that's the thing. Yeah. That's the thing that I was saying before, where it's like the dialogue does not match the facial expressions, so there is some confusion as to like what I should feel. And that's why, like, Shadow Gens, you don't have that. In Shadow Gens, everything is laid out pretty perfectly in terms of intention and expression and emotion. But, with the Sonic and Knuckles stuff, a lot of people were like, oh, yeah, they're gonna fuck. And it's like, I don't know if that's what they meant to do.
Oh, but they are. They are. Like,
yeah, I mean...
whatever Ian says, like, Knuckles and Sonic is my canon little... I guess.
Yeah.
I've always been more into Shad Amy than Son Amy. I just think it's more interesting. Says more about those characters. You put Sonic and Amy together, and what does it say about either of them? Nothing. There's fuck all about either of them. Amy and Shadow together, that's much more endearing. And Sonic and Knuckles, yeah, fuck it, yeah. Let's go for it.
Yeah. Why not? All right.
Yeah. And, Knuckles being red, Sonic being blue is kind of like the union of Republican and Democrat, because it's an election week, everybody.
Oh, my God.
But because I'm English, I can't vote. I've got a case of electile dysfunction. Stole that pun from The New Norm. Anyway.
Okay. I think it's your turn now with Mr. Krabs.
Porker. Okay, Mr. Krabs sends $1.99. What creepy is someone trying to ship Shadow and Maria? Yeah, they're siblings, and she's a kid. She shouldn't be into relationships and stuff.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I saw some people. I think I saw like a YouTube video that was like, trying to like, I guess like they were reviewing the game and they kept implying that like Maria was like the girl of Shadow's dreams and stuff like that. I'm like, you're being weird.
Yeah, maybe
like
she's the sister of his dreams. But here's the thing: like, I have long said that ages in Sonic have been pretty just darts at a board, bogus, and that it's not anything to get too hung up about. In the case of Maria, she's a kid. She's definitely a kid.
Yeah, that's a human child. There's no way.
Child.
Like it's not like, and of course like Maria is still fictional, but in terms of just like character design and the fact that she's just that's a human kid. Like that.
And
that's...
like a big part of her character is childlike innocence. She's a
kid. Exactly.
Look, there are some Sonic characters where it's like, okay, shipping, you can have some wiggle room on it, fine. You know, Sonic, Amy, Rouge, Shadow, they're all, you know, fucking, they could be anything. Maria's a child. Tails is a child. Cream is a child. They're off limits.
Yeah. And like, and also, and this is just kind of like my interpretation of why they kind of like did away with the ages thing. It was more so for story purposes, because a lot of people would say like, oh, a 12-year-old Amy wouldn't be able to own an apartment and, you know, whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? So it's like, they probably just like did away with that just for story purposes.
The thing is, like, I think as far as it matters, she could be 12, she could be 21. Right. Like, it doesn't really, it has no bearing on her character or her design. She's not age-coded. I'd say, you know, it varies from project to project. I look at Sonic X, and I'm like, yeah, these are kids. And they're referred to as kids several times in the show. Yeah. And in the Japanese thing, they even have their names and their stats and their ages and stuff flash up. So, yeah, Sonic X, kid-coded. Sure, they're all given little scrunkly proportions as well in that. Sonic Frontiers, you know, they could all be fucking.
Yeah, no.
They could all be fucking. Like,
it is funny looking back, because there is like a line in Shadow Gens that says that like Omega and Shadow didn't meet that long ago. And I keep thinking like, oh yeah, most of all these games take place within like a year.
Yeah, I think Ian Flynn mentioned, like, it takes place within, like, 18 months, and it's all of us collectively kind of scoffed at that back at the time, because it was just like, there's no way, dude.
Yeah, there's no way that the Earth could shatter and then reform itself and then Unleashed.
But it's
and
also
then, like, Eggman, yeah.
It's by no means uncommon for, like, a mascot to be age ambiguous. Mickey Mouse is pretty age ambiguous. He could be a teenager. He could also be an adult. He's got a house and stuff. Look at fucking SpongeBob SquarePants. You know, he's got his own home. He's got, you know, a fucking boat. But a major part of the first movie is that he's kind of a kid and stuff. So it's like he could be any fucking age. Sonic, the same applies there. There's gonna be characters that are age-coded, others that aren't, and it's all for the sake of relatability.
Yeah, it's marketing too, right? Because it's like a lot of the people that, you know, do consume Sonic, or at least like the main, I guess, like a group that they're trying to appeal to is like tweens and early teens and stuff like that, which is why Sonic is 15, and you know what I mean. So if
you're 8 years old, Sonic could be 8 years old, as far as it matters. But if you're in your 30s, Sonic could also be in his 30s. You know, like, you can still relate to him in some way. You know. Like, I know that relatability isn't the be-all and end-all, but they do deliberately make these characters kind of as flexible as possible. And I think that absolutely applies to a big swath of Sonic characters. Maria is not in that bunch.
No. And, like, the thing is that, like, even trying to imply, like, a romance thing there is just really messed up because of, like, well, not only because of the whole implications of trying to ship Shadow with like a child, but like also the fact that Maria, her innocence is what is grounding Shadow, you know. So like taking that away, it's also taking away a lot of character from Maria.
The object of the character.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
And have your
it's also just weird
if it's all harmless, whatever, no one's getting hurt, whatever, but it does defeat the entire point of the character.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways. I think it's my turn.
Moving swiftly along.
Yeah.
I think.
All right, KB.
Yeah.
I think it's me because I think you were mentioning the Mr. President.
It is you.
Yeah. So KB with $9.99 once again. Thank you, KB. Again, like being very generous. I gotta say, as much as I love Frontiers' story, the limited budget and resources really held back the story at points.
I agree completely. Yeah. Like the story itself is good, but it can't be told properly.
Yeah, that's the short man, and it also sucks because I feel like Frontiers was kind of like slated, like it was almost created as like the last Sonic game. It's like, okay, since this is our last hoorah on this, let's put all of our eggs in this basket. Yeah, let's put all of our eggs in this basket.
Things are going to change.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was also a make or break game as well. Like I say, there's not.
No, that's what it was. Yeah.
There's not really reality where Sonic would ever disappear forever, but put it this way. I do love Sonic Boom, but it also behooves me to acknowledge that was a very expensive failure. Like,
oh, absolutely. They had
companies that would have just put Sonic to bed after.
They had to change location for the U.S. offices because they lost so much with Boom.
And also, like, just like the sheer amount it would cost to make a new branch of the Sonic brand just to get the idea patented. It was a very expensive investment, and I still don't understand why they felt the need to do a reboot for Sonic after Generations and Lost World. But fucking Sega gonna do what Sega gonna do. But okay, moving on to next one. Lord sends €5. How do I get the good ending? Sonic trying to go super with the fake, causing an explosion that locks Maria and Gerald and everyone in white space. But would that be the good ending if they're all sealed there? Like, maybe Shadow can change their fate. I don't know. I think that's the problem.
That would be funny. That would be funny if there was like that is a little bit out of the game's budget, but like if there was like an alternate ending where Rouge failed to give the emerald back to Sonic before he turned super, so nothing worked.
That would be a really fun way to tie the Boom series into canon as well, is the idea that this event horizon caused the Boom universe to be born.
Yeah, the worst timeline. Oh no. But no.
It was a fun timeline. I had fun with it. It's just it's a shame that things went the way they did. Anyways.
Yeah.
Is it me or is it you?
I think it's
you.
Me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's KB again. $9.99. Thank you, KB. Maria naming Shadow and her reason for naming him, that was not first shown in the 2016 Sonic comic manga. I have a little bit of I don't know if they're retconning it, but I have a little bit of not necessarily, but like some confusion with the implication that Maria named Shadow, because the project was already called Project Shadow before Maria even knew about it.
Do we know that she didn't know about it? Could it just be like, oh, what should I name this? And she's like, name it Shadow. I was like, yes, Shadow. Project Shadow.
Yeah, I don't know.
She might have inspired the name, I guess. I don't know.
Possibly. And it could be a thing where it's like two people can come up with the same thing at the same time or whatever. But
I would say that because she's obviously quite close with Gerald, maybe she named him and then Gerald named that, and then that went on to become Project.
Possibly.
Snowball effect.
I think it is a very sweet sentiment though, and Maria, like, I know a lot of people have been oddly shitting on Maria's character in this game on like the twitter.com whatever. Twitter's a cesspool. I don't give a shit about that, but like it's like a lot of people have been like being very critical of Maria's character, and in my opinion I'm just like, well, like what else would you want her to do, really? Like, she does everything that she can in her power with the context that she has. This is pre-Emerald attack, pre-gun attack.
I don't know if that's the point that... I think one of the critiques I saw was kind of that she's kind of just an angelic character archetype, which I could kind of see, even if I don't entirely agree with it.
It's that, but like, I don't need Maria to have flaws. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't need Maria to be a flawed.
You could say it would make her more believable, but at the same time, I think, you know, we don't spend a lot of time with this character. We don't need fucking throw a tantrum.
And plus,
something.
like, Maria's innocence, like, and her being this pure is the whole point.
Yeah,
she is supposed to be kind of like.
how could humanity destroy something so pure? And that's why Shadow's so angry.
Yes.
You know? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
beyond
Like,
just the bond they had, it's the purity of Maria. So I think it's
Yeah.
very important that they do maintain that. Of course, if they wanted to do a spin-off where they explore Maria's character more, then yeah, I probably would like to see some more flaws. But as what she is right now,
sure.
we're fine. We're fine in my.
Yeah, we're
Um,
fine. She was great in Dark Beginnings.
Yeah.
She's great here.
She's Shadow's
She fi-
anchor, so like,
Yeah,
it makes a lot of
That's
sense.
yeah. Like a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, she's just like a story piece or a story like she's only there to like progress the story." And I'm like, "Yes,
Yeah, it's called
like,
Shadow
yeah.
Generations, not Maria
yeah,
Generations.
that's the point. Like the point of her character is to put Shadow in like ground Shadow, put him in a right mindset, and face the threat head on. And I feel like they do that fantastically in this story. No notes, So there you go.
All right, let's keep this moving.
I think it's your turn. Yeah, it's your turn.
Mr. Krabs sends $1.99 US. Ladies, gents, and NBs, The Weekend. Thank you.
You forgot to put a burger. Okay.
Ladies
No.
and gentlemen, and
The Weekend.
NBs, The Weekend.
The Weekend. Where's Tom when you need him?
He wouldn't do it. He's too much of a bitch boy.
My pussy hurts. I can't do it.
Okay.
I can't. No. But KV with KV again with 999 US. Thank you again, KV. Like holy crap, you're
Very
doing
generous.
You're doing a lot, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much. In the Japanese version of Shadow Jin, Shadow had no sympathy for the Bio Lizard. Okay.
Glad I didn't play the Japanese version then.
Yeah. No, I like. I know a lot of people consider the Japanese version of the Sonic like mythos and everything to be kind of like paramount and kind of be like the default like way of looking at things. But in my opinion, I think Shadow, like him having empathy, is a great character trait for him to have.
It's going
Like,
to
it
vary
would
from
not-
piece to piece. There are some pieces where I do prefer the Japanese version. So, for example, Sonic X, but that's not really even just a localization thing. The entire thing feels very different. So, like Sonic X, I'll go to bat for the Japanese version. But when it comes to like the games and stuff, like I'm kind of grateful sometimes for some of the localizations we get. Not all the time. Like I prefer, the Japanese version of like Sonic Colors and.
Of course.
But like, yeah.
But in terms of this game, I'd like whenever Shadow like basically looks at the Bio Lizard, which is by all intents his brother, like that's his kin, and is seeing him suffering, like here's the thing, like that's like family, like that's a different kind of bond, And since
this is just a creature that is just perpetually in pain, was born in pain,
Yes.
and is living and existing in pain. I think Shadow would become a much less endearing character if he couldn't at least feel some sense of sympathy for him.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, like Shadow's whole thing is about finding connection, finding his family, finding his way. And he
like,
had
found
that with
family
Maria.
is such a theme in Shadow
Yeah.
Generations.
So for him to not have sympathy for his own brother sounds completely asinine to me. Like I love the fact that was changed into something that just seems a little bit more in theme with the game as a whole, which is about rebuilding connection, family, letting go, stuff like that. Like, yeah, no, like I don't. The thing is, I respect and love the Japanese, version of games, like you said, with like Sonic Colors and stuff like that. Like
there are things
feel
that
like
they get better and some things they get worse. Like the Japanese version of Frontiers is a joke, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's like they cut out all the parts where it's like, oh, we're going to go off on our own journeys. So it's just like, Sonic, I've been having some trouble over the years, but now I'm going to stop. Like, all right.
It's like, all right, dude.
There's nothing
Whatever.
to take from this, but okay. But okay, let's move along because I am so tired.
Yeah. Let's do it. It's your turn with Twilord.
Twilord sends €2. Thank you, Twilord. Pennies failed, so no sequels? Fuck, I loved it. I guess you can't rule out the possibility that it could be maybe a sequel someday, but it's not looking likely.
It didn't do gangbusters.
It wasn't stinky enough.
It wasn't stinky. Yeah. Okay.
Stank.
All right. So Twilord again with €5. Thank you, Twilord. Black Doom faked Maria and everything to give his boy some much needed therapy. This whole thing was just him teaching his son to feel his feelings.
He's such
You
a
know
good
what?
dad.
What a good dad, like what if that is the case, which would be really funny. If that was the case, Black Doom's a good dad. Thank you, Black Doom.
In today's
I don't think
episode
that was the case.
of Black Doom did nothing wrong.
Black Doom, Thanos did nothing wrong. Yeah.
Orker. Okay, so we've got Zerbim, with the 50 Swiss francs. At least Shadow's last memories. Thank you, Zerbin. At least Shadow's last memories of Gerald was a good, loving father instead of the mass murder psychopath he became. Yeah, that does give Shadow it puts him off on a nicer footing, I think. I'm kind of hoping that we will see a small change in his personality going forward. Because it's something I do get kind of tired of with Shadow, is like, oh, look at everything he's overcome only to be the exact same. Like, I'm okay with him still being an introverted guy that likes his own company, but, like, for sure. I think we do need to see little elements of where there's a bit more light in him. I
think they can do that pretty seamlessly, because we haven't really seen Shadow, aside from this obviously, but we haven't seen Shadow in the mainline games prior to this. Like, we saw him briefly in Forces.
Yeah. And it's already been kind of confirmed that a lot of Forces is not the way it seemed. Like, Izuka was asked in like a Q&A, was Sonic really tortured for 6 months? And he said, we're clearly walking some of that back. Although that could just also be localization.
It could be localization, and also just like hindsight 2020, you can kind of just like, they are allowed to change things, I don't want them to be like, oh, like every mistake they make, they kind of have to roll with it, so I think they can do that with Shadow pretty easily. So yeah. All right, let's move on. All right, so Twilord with
Very
€2.
Well.
Thank you. Just now, Metal Overlord Hard S ranked. Hell yes.
Good job.
Nice job. I'm like Metal Overlord. It is a toughie. It is tough, especially on hard. Like, you have to really be on top of like throwing all the shit back at him, using Chaos Control effectively, because he also activates at the same time, and getting to him before like very quickly. Like I said, I think you have to get him to the second phase before like a minute in order to get an S rank. So nice job.
Also, Tom Topics put in the chat, because obviously we did the weekend thing. Now it's personal. How dare? Fuck you, Tom.
Hey, no, I love you, Tom. Don't listen to him.
Everyone that said they loved you lied.
That's not true.
I love just being needlessly toxic. Okay, Borger. All right. Is it me? Yeah, it's me.
It is you.
Dragon Fruit, final super chat, $10. Can't believe Mephiles boss fight actually featured tilted towers. And that's where Frank headed off to. Thank you, Dragon Fruit. Well. Nearly 4 hours we've been going at this. Jesus.
There's a lot. We could have beaten the entire game.
In that
of Shadow
Jins. My god, the skeleton.
Oh, the skeleton.
Owie.
But
Frank, what are you up to? Dylan, what are you up to? Great, what are you up to?
Well, Sonic Expo is next week, so if you are going to Expo, please don't hesitate to say hi. I want to be able to meet as many of you as I can. I'll be running the audio visual stuff for Sonic.
The audio visual for Expo.
Oh my god! I'll also be in a couple of panels. I know that me and oh my god, Bob, shut up! I know that me and Nick, Game Apologist, he invited me on to do a panel with him, so I'm doing that. And I want to say I'm doing another one, but I'm not going to announce it just yet, just because that's still not entirely set in stone. Things are subject to change, even with the week out. So, but yeah, next week I'll be in Dallas, Texas.
Get to hang out.
I know. You should be here.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
If I was a Hollywood elite like you, maybe I could afford to.
I'm nowhere near Hollywood. I live in the Southeast.
Yeah, Hollywood.
That's not Hollywood.
You live in the southeast of Hollywood.
No, I live in the Southeast of America.
Of America's Hollywood, yeah.
Hollywood.
Ameriwood.
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, that's all that I've been doing. Other than that, I've been just kind of like chipping away at commissions still. I had some pretty pretty bad mental health stuff go on the past couple months, so music was kind of put on the back burner for a minute there, but I am getting back to that. And I'm also still writing and recording a lot of my own music and still working on my own personal game. Again, nothing is ready to be announced just yet, but I'm hoping that next year will be a pretty busy year for me. That is the plan. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. But Pup,
Hey.
what are you up to, buddy?
So do you get like seasonal depression as well?
Like, not. I don't know if it's more so seasonal depression. I think it's just like it is kind of random sometimes.
And
where
in my case, it's not even like I'm like sad, depressed, or anything. I'm just energyless. Like, and it's the weird thing.
Oh,
'cause
fair.
I love
Yeah.
the winter. I love the winter, but like I just get so energyless and just stuck in my thoughts. So I'm gonna need some. But in the meantime, oh my mind pussy hordes. I've done a
Yeah.
full-on review, feature length, of Sonic X Shadow Generations that people can check out. I will also be reviewing Venom 3 soon, so you can look forward to that.
Ooh. Heck yeah. I'm excited. Yeah, no. I'm excited for the DLC, the movie DLC for
Yes.
for Sonic 3
Absolutely.
for Generation. I hope we just get more official DLC like that in the future. I think like having that year of Sonic Frontiers free DLC was
Absolutely.
like so nice.
And the fact
and
that
I
the
hope they
original
kind of like repeat
Generations
that.
didn't get a proper DLC was just criminal.
Yeah, other than like that pre-order bonus of like the casino night. Yeah. I did check to see if Sonic 1 was included, and it wasn't. So it's like, all right, it's
Yeah.
of course not. Oh man, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Is there anything else we want to do to kind of like kind of send it off? Anything in particular? Anything at all? Anything? Hello?